Welcome, everybody, to the episode of Pictures Politics. I'm your host, Dougie. This episode 79 of Season 3. And today, we will be watching Pete Hegseth, Secretary of War, testify before the U.S. Senate on the NDAA bill, which is the military funding bill. On top of that, we will be talking about the Israel U.S. military merger because that is tied to this bill. And yeah, if you've been following, then you probably know all about this. We've been talking about the past few days. If you're new, that's okay. I'm going to explain what it is again. So the NDAA bill is the military bill. It funds the U.S. military, and the bill recently has been attached to the Save America Act bill, which is the voting registration identity bill, which would, quote, secure our elections. Trump gave a speech on Thursday about it. And within the NDAA bill also is a provision. Well, there's four, but the main one would tie the U.S. and Israeli military together. So if the bill passes, the Secretary of War, Pete Hegseth, would have to pretty much create a little sub department that would be in charge of giving Israel access to our technology. Not only that, it would also merge our industrial base for our military. So we'll be watching Pete Hegseth explain why that's important. It'll surely be fun. The vote happens tomorrow, at least for the House. But we'll cover it tomorrow. It still has to go to the House and Senate, of course. We'll be covering it as much as possible. To be honest with you, all eyes should be on this bill. House Republicans advanced the NDAA rule blocking removal of U.S.-Israel tech ties provisions. So today, they voted on whether or not they should remove Section 219. Most of them said no. I have the numbers. We'll look through it. Tomorrow, they vote on whether or not it passes. The procedural vote on RES 1438 clears HR 8800, the fiscal year 2027 NDAA authorizing $900 billion for defense spending, troop raises, and quality of life upgrades for a full House floor vote on Wednesday. Section 219, the United States-Israel Defense Technology Cooperation Initiative, sets up Pentagon coordination on areas like counter drones, missile defense, AI, cybersecurity, directed energy weapons, and biotechnology, with annual reports required through 2030. All 210 Democrats opposed the rule, alongside Representative Thomas Massie, who's Republican from Kentucky, who sees it as a sovereignty risk merging U.S. and Israeli tech supply chains. Duh. The rule allowed minor amendments but blocked Massie's full removal effort, as critics like former Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene label it as a betrayal, which it is very clearly. So, yeah, guys, if the bill passes, the Pentagon must coordinate with the IDF, and by must, it means they literally have to hire somebody who is in charge of giving them information on that stuff. It's pretty crazy shit. I read through the whole bill in a whole ass other episode. I couldn't believe the shit I was reading. It says that if we were to say no to transferring them any information, we have to write a strongly, like, a whole ass report as to why, like, the president himself has to. It's insane. It's got to be in a certain time frame. Like, we literally have to answer to a foreign state. It's insanity. It's pure insanity. I've never seen anything like this before. I think everyone needs to be paying attention to this bill. Thomas Massie said, unfortunately, the rule passed just now, and no debate or vote was allowed on Section 219, integration of U.S. military technology and supply chains with Israel's. Yep. NDAA will receive a record vote tomorrow with Section 219 in it. All vote no. So I do have some good news. It will be recorded, so we will know who voted yay and who voted nay. Today, as far as, making sure it passes with Section 219 in it, Republicans, all but one, which is Thomas Massie, so 213 of them, and every single Democrat voted no. We're just living in a weird time, guys. We're just living in a weird ass time. I was the only Republican to vote for my amendment to cut 3.3 billion in aid to Israel. The Republican Party cannot seriously claim to be American first. I agree. I 100% agree. It doesn't make any sense. That's not the only bullshit spending in this bill. Did you guys know we give 2 billion to the King of Jordan every year? 2 billion every year. If you don't know how American politics works, basically we just send money to the ruler of every country and demand that they, you know, kowtow to us in the future, and not just our allies in quotations, but our enemies too, the Taliban, probably ISIS. I mean, we do it all the time. Famously, Obama airdropped billions of dollars, I think, to Iran or the Taliban. I can't remember which, but they all do it. I'm not here to pick on one or the other. You can see how much of a mess this is. It's not good. We'll see tomorrow what happens. I have good news though. I don't think the bill's going to pass. I don't think it's going to pass. It's great. That's fantastic. And I'm kind of like I'm a unique person when it comes to this. I think our military should be funded. I'll get into kind of some of the specifics throughout the video when we were watching Pete Hegseth testify. But I'm definitely not for us sending money to the king of another country just for fun, or to a foreign state, integrating our military and our industrial base. I mean, that's just insanity. I don't know who is for that, except apparently all the Republican politicians. Hilarious. I never thought I'd be on the side of Chuck Schumer. What a weird fucking fence. To just cross over. But here I am. And, this would be a different story if these provisions weren't in this bill. I really would be having an entirely different discussion if it wasn't like this. But again, it's in there. So tomorrow they vote. The House votes on it going to the Senate, and then the Senate votes on Thursday, I believe, if it passes. I don't think it's going to pass. I don't think it's going to pass. It's good news. All right. Let's watch the Senate hearing. This is Pete Hegseth, Secretary of Defense, trying to tell the Senate why they should vote yes to the bill. Now, as far as I know, they actually want more money. They want $1.5 trillion. But what happens is they ask for a base, which is, what did we say? It was like $850 billion. And then they ask for more later on. That's super common. When
Secretary of Agriculture, Brooke Rollins, and the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, General Dan Kane.
See how old
these administration officials represent the largest components of the administration's request, and we welcome them to the
Hegseth
committee
is not the
today.
only one.
Secretary Hegseth, we will begin with your testimony. Please proceed.
Well, Chair Collins, Vice Chair Murray, members of the Senate Committee on Appropriations, thank you for the opportunity to testify on President Trump's supplemental funding request for the Department of War.
Listen, I'm not going to agree with this guy, but I love his hairstyle. This guy looks cool as fuck.
As you know, we live in a dangerous world that requires bold and swift action. Hence, this supplemental request for fiscal year 2026. This request is an urgent, necessary injection of resources to address the immediate needs of our department. The supplemental funding request is not a substitute.
All right. There's a protester. Of course, there's a protester. There's protests in every hearings, even small ones.
The witness will suspend until order is restored in the committee room. I know that individuals feel
they are. This is usually how these bills go. Well, sorry. This is how this particular bill goes, the military funding one. You'll never see a room this full on any other testimony. Not any other testimony will you see a room this full.
Very passionately, but we must have order in the hearing room so that we can proceed. We're now going to move forward with our hearing, and Secretary Hegseth, please proceed.
Thank you. The supplemental funding request is not a substitute for the president's full $1.5 trillion base budget request. 1.5 trillion.
Mr. Secretary, please suspend until order is restored in the hearing room. We will begin the timing clock since you've been interrupted twice.
Thank you.
Please proceed.
1.5 trillion is what the president seeks and what we need to
1.5
defend
trillion.
the country.
Jesus fuck.
The members of this committee understand better than most that
Inflation, guys.
long-term strategic dominance cannot be funded through one-off supplementals.
Protesters, guys, protesters. Very common.
We will have order in the hearing room.
Okay, we got it.
The budget proposals submitted under President Trump follow a simple logic.
Oh man, there's a lot of protesters today.
I would ask that the Capitol Police, whose professionalism I admire, remove those who are seeking to disrupt the hearing.
Okay.
Requires a generational investment to deliver on peace through strength. We know the best way to create peace is to prepare for war, to deter it. And that's exactly what the Department of War is doing, building a force so capable that it would be absurd for anyone to challenge it. As the direct result of neglected priorities and growth.
There's a lot to get through. I think I'm going to skip through his speech. It's just basic.
If we don't, in autonomy,
we need money. We want to be OP.
Ability to
we want to whoop our enemies' ass. Blah blah blah. It's
used in contingencies. But
not going to be anything
no mistake,
special.
This is not a one-for-one replacement. We are upgrading and we are modernizing across.
Thank you, General. Secretary Rollins.
Thank you so much, Chairwoman Collins, Ranking Member Murray.
Yep, same with
And
her.
so
We're gonna fast forward to the
all
actual
of our
question,
colleagues to please keep track of the clock and stay within the allotted phases and conduct of operation.
Yep, rules,
aggression.
behave. Yep.
Go toward paying these bills and are necessary to restore readiness, repair, or replace battle damage to aircraft, ships, or bases, and address urgent munitions challenges. I understand and am told that some military services face near-term solvency challenges. What will be the impact on our troops if additional funding is not provided? Are there military exercises, for example, that are at risk of cancellation? What message would we be sending?
Oh man, I love watching these. I'm sorry, guys, I'm a freak. I watch these all the time. There's been like 8 of these in the past 2 weeks, and I'm behind. I might start a second channel hosting them, to be honest with you, but you get to kind of unmask your politicians and really peek behind the curtains and see how stupid they are. I mean, genuinely, just how stupid most of them are, and have no idea what's going on. I mean, this woman is old. You can, if you're only listening, she's like shaking. You know, you can kind of hear it in her voice. And no offense to her, but even if she's at her sharpest, she's too old, man. She has no idea what's happening. And so it's, to me, it's just absurd that this old ass woman is somehow going to even be capable of understanding what our military needs at this point. Like, he's demanding money for AI and robots. And, you know, this woman was probably around when they shot muskets. It's ridiculous.
To the world. Secretary Hegseth, either you or Senator or General Kane.
Chairwoman, I very much appreciate that question, and it's because it's connected to the real world.
I'm going to teach you guys some stuff about how the Senate hearings go. So, these guys are trained in stalling the clock. You'll notice if you're just listening, you'll be able to tell too. You'll notice, so they're on a timer. It's like 3 minutes per question, per senator they have to get answers. and the people who are testifying are trained to stall out the clock as long as possible. So you'll notice every single time they go to answer the question, and you'll be like, "Oh, that's a great question," or "That question sucks." You'll just notice
realities of this budget cycle. There is training right now and training in the future that would have to be curtailed if we do not get our budget needs met and met urgently. And yes, some of that has to do with the current budget
unless it
cycle
satisfies
and
what
how
they're trying to get
things
across.
come together. But we are a department that for 4 years met funding shortfalls under the previous administration.
Well, you know what? I have an idea. How about we cut the $2 billion we're trying to send to the King of Jordan? How about we cut the what was it, $6 billion we're trying to send to Israel? Shit, I just found you $10 billion. Hire me. I just found you $10 billion. How much more we need? 800? Shit.
Was not a priority to fund the Department of Defense under Joe Biden. It also took the munitions and a lot of there were 5 supplementals out of this committee that took munitions one for one and sent them to Ukraine and had tried to replace them with the same bureaucratic process that was too slow and didn't replace them in real time. And then there were threats that were ignored around the world. So you're looking at a lot of negligence and a lot of deferred maintenance that this department is having to catch up on. And so that's why I call this a generational investment. It truly is. This is $1.5 trillion budget with this supplemental being part of it is how we catch up and get ahead. And ensure in the process we're putting soldiers and sailors and airmen first.
Why not?
Marines
we're already
first,
$41 trillion in debt.
The end
What's another two?
that have gone up because
Fuck
recruiting is at historic levels are fully funded. So rather
you know what
than
also is at historic levels? Our debt. Our debt to GDP ratio is at historic levels. We're operating at a wartime deficit. Hasn't been this bad since World War II.
catch up and make sure we're not losing training, we should be ahead of that curve. And that's where we think 1.5 trillion can get us.
Thank you. Senator Kane, I keep calling you Senator General Kane. I'm going to ask you to respond for the record because in my remaining time, I do want to ask Secretary Rollins a question.
Of course.
Secretary Rollins, as we heard from the previous panel, our country has many outstanding recovery needs from disasters and other related weather-related events over the past 2 years. As this chart shows, and this is a chart from your department, many have unmet.
If you're just listening, it's a chart that is showing the crop disaster losses in the U.S. And there's just a bunch of red spots that I guess show areas where crop disasters have happened. I don't really know the point of this map, but
weather-related agricultural losses. In Maine, many of our producers are struggling amid a combination of market volatility and disaster conditions last year, which included excessive rainfall in the spring, followed by a severe drought. They need relief. Yet the administration's supplemental request does not include funding to address these recovery needs. It does have $1.1 billion to help Florida agricultural producers rebound from a severe freeze this past winter, but nothing for prior disasters in other states.
I'm a Floridian. We have a garden out back. Our plant suffered from a freeze. There's nothing you can do about it. How does money help the farmers recover from a freeze? Guys, my overall point here, and it'll be a common trend you'll see, is that there's so much fucking waste. There's just so much waste. If you notice, it's the waste of money that triggers me the most when I see dumb politicians, when I see dumb people who get paid a fuck ton of money. It pisses me off, man. And again, it's taxpayers' dollars, but not really. It is, but they also just print a fuck ton of money. And the only real thing that's happening is that your dollars lose its value. It's their way of, not, quote, taxing you directly so that we can all just sit here and pretend it's okay. Of course, it's not. But anyways, she wants money for a crop freeze in Florida. how does money fix the crop freeze? I mean, maybe there is a way. Maybe if someone in the comments, tell me, please, because I don't understand how that can happen. I can only see, oh, geez, farmers lost money because of the crop freeze, so you're just going to give them money?
Can you explain USDA's thinking behind focusing your request just on the 2026 freeze rather than on the 2025 disaster declarations that you made?
Yes, Senator, thank you for that question. Obviously the discussions that went on over at OMB and with our teams continue, but what I will say is we are obviously 100% in support of any sort of disaster relief program for our farmers, whether it's hurricane, tornado, drought, freeze, et cetera. So look forward to working with you on that and specifically understanding the larger context here that there's a lot of farmers, a lot of producers who are really hurting, not just in Florida and not just from the freeze. So it's important that we work together to solve for that.
Thank you. Senator
No, I
Murray.
think that answered the question. Whatever. I really don't
Thank
care
you, Chair
about
Collins.
the agricultural
Secretary
part of
Hegseth,
this.
your department received $150 billion last year in the Republicans' Big Beautiful Bill. It also received a record $839 billion for fiscal year 2026, more money than you asked for last year. Combined, that is a $1 trillion budget for the year. And as I already mentioned, your department has yet to spend half of the reconciliation funds. And despite that, you are here today asking for tens of billions of dollars more for things that you've
Tens
already
of
asked
billions?
for
You
in
mean
your
hundreds?
FY27 request or that have nothing to do with Iran. This administration has tried to sell this as an emergency request, but it may be better understood as an attempt to skirt the normal appropriations process. Here are just a few of the things requested in this Iran supplemental. $800 million for the National Guard to patrol D.C. even longer, over $1 billion for the Army to patrol the southern border, which is DHS's job, $900 million to support the administration's illegal boat strikes in the Caribbean,
Okay.
over $18 billion
Oh,
for munitions, which
God. Oh! Guys, it's a struggle. Maybe it's just me and my political alignment and my views. I don't know. It's a struggle to look at the Democrat and hear her go, "Well, why aren't we opening the border? Why aren't we opening the border? Why do you need money to secure the border?" And then I have to sit here and defend Pete Hegseth and be like, "Yeah, we should put money in the border." And then we jump over to some other senator who's like, "Well, why?" Well, I doubt we'll get to the Israel bill. I doubt they'll talk about it. All of these guys are paid for and support it. But I also have to hate on Hegseth because of the integration. What a mess.
you've already requested in your FY27 budget request, and $1.7 billion to pay for your decision to recruit more people than the services need, which was not contemplated by the FY26 funding bill Congress recently passed. Now, you've already submitted a reprogramming.
Lady, you just listed off less than $10 billion worth of activity. It's amazing to me. What's amazing to me is how much value you can get at a $10 billion. I can secure the border. I can secure the land border. I can secure the sea border, and I can stop all crime in Washington, D.C. with $10 billion. To be honest, they could probably do it with less, but that's still impressive. That's amazing. But also, you need $1.5 trillion, and you also want to send $10 billion outside the country to foreign countries. And of course, this woman's so dumb. She like has no actual concept of where the money's going or what it's being spent on. She doesn't even realize what she just said because she's just so fucking retarded. There's so many other places to pick on the dollar values going to other places. You could have easily just said, "Hey, why in this bill are we sending money to Jordan? Why in this bill are we sending money to Israel?" Like, and she runs with, "Why are we securing the border?" And yet I'm supposed to vote Democrat. Like, is she fucking retarded? Like, help me out. Who votes for this woman?
request on this that our subcommittee is considering now, which really underscores the point I made in my opening remarks that the problem is not a lack of money, but poor planning. So I'll be blunt. The truth is your request does not make a lot of sense. So let me ask you a simple question. Why exactly are billions of dollars more for the National Guard and this administration's illegal strikes in the Caribbean urgently needed?
You're focusing on the wrong things! What is wrong with you? What is wrong with you? Of all of the things in this bill to pick on all of them, you could have closed your eyes and thrown a dart at any of 100 things in the bill, and you cherry pick the one thing that most people in this country think should be paid for. You're the worst. You're the worst person. You're the reason why everyone my age and younger hates boomers, bro. It's you. Oh.
For the Iran war.
Well, Senator, I wouldn't, of course, agree with your characterization, but why this kind of spending is needed is because of the gross negligence and neglect of the Biden administration inside our department. Ran it like a bureaucracy, abandoned our strength posture around the world, so we're having to reestablish deterrence. You mentioned the end strength numbers, and I will acknowledge that we are ahead of schedule on end strength in recruiting. 8,000 in the Navy, 6,000 in the Army,
I've got
4,000
friends
in the
and
Air
family
Force.
who are joining
Because
right
under
now.
President Trump, there's been
God bless
record and historic over 30-year recruiting records inside our department since he won the election, because the American people didn't want to sign up for what Joe Biden was providing our military.
Let me
and
be
they
blunt.
want to sign up for what President Trump is doing in his leadership. And so those are good problems to have that we need to fund, and a reflection of momentum. And this budget will allow us to continue the kind of momentum that gets us ahead.
My point is that a lot of this request does not feel like an emergency. And let me move on. Secretary Hegseth, like most Americans, I've had a lot of trouble following this administration's contradictory statements about the war. On April 8th, you said, and I quote, "Their missile program is functionally destroyed, launchers, production facilities, and existing stockpiles depleted and decimated and almost completely ineffective." Mr. Secretary, Iran has been firing at U.S. military bases in the region and ships for the last week. How is it possible, if their capabilities were, quote, functionally destroyed 3 months earlier, as she claimed, for them to be doing this now?
It's a great question. To be honest, that's a great question. It's something I brought up last episode. You sit there and you say you won the war. You say 99% of their capabilities are fucked up. You know, you've done all of the things, and yet somehow ships are still getting blown up. We have dead soldiers. You know, it's a great question. Finally, my head's not going to explode.
Well, Senator, Iran is at the weakest point militarily it has ever been in.
Okay, well then we should be embarrassed. We should be embarrassed. We look like shit. If Iran is at the weakest point they have ever been in, and they just killed 4 U.S. soldiers, and they've been able to put a block on the strait, then we should be embarrassed as a military, and we suck. We suck. We should be embarrassed. That's what that means. And that's after our first round of bombing. Man, that makes us look like shit. Fuck you.
In the past decade, certainly maybe in 47 years, as they've gathered effectively a terror army. And that terror army was built to try to create conventional capabilities to defend against a pursuit of nuclear weapons, which meant thousands of ballistic missiles, many of which we have destroyed, others of which they have put inside facilities and hidden in underground facilities. And that's what terror regimes would do. So I acknowledge they still have capabilities, no doubt. But the amount of damage that we've done to them over the course of these series of operations has put them in the worst place they've ever been.
Okay, well, let me move on. On May 5th, you claimed
I mean, I would argue they're in the best spot they've been in years, but, you know,
Iran doesn't control the strait, and you said that there was a, quote, powerful red, white, and blue dome over the strait. If that was true, how did Iran shrink ship traffic in the strait to a trickle again last week?
Yeah, it's not. Listen, there are not ships going through the strait. There are very little amounts of ships going through the strait, and the Houthis at the bottom of the Horn of Africa, or whatever that place is called. Maybe it's the peninsula. I can't remember. Whatever. They're at the bottom. they are also now and joining in on the blockade. So, there's no oil that's going through there. It's like something like 20% of the world's oil, is supposed to exit that strait. I mean, again, I talked about last episode. Gas prices are going to go up. Fuel prices are going to go up. It's inevitable. They're going to try and keep the news down about as much as possible. South Korea already has declared it to be a problem. More Southeast Asian countries are going to do the same. Australia's next, and then it'll be Europe. So again, it kind of dials back down to, well, if Iran is at the worst place they've been in 40 years, how is it that they're still able to damage ships? And whatever, remove the 40-year thing. Okay, but they're still damaging ships. So, to them, it's been a while since Iran has had such a a large bargaining chip. And maybe that changes. Maybe we bomb the right person eventually. If you drop enough bombs, eventually you get the right person. But until then, you know, I would argue they're pretty much at their highest position in terms of bargaining than they've been in 40 years.
We pushed almost, I believe, between 400 and 500 million barrels of oil under the nose of Iran over the course of Project Freedom, which went underground, which I acknowledged after we did so covertly because it was more effective to do so quietly than to do so publicly. So
It's true, too. That did happen. They smuggled a bunch of oil. However, it's still not all of it. It's still not all of it.
we've been in control of moving traffic through there for quite some time. Will they
but it
retain the
has
ability to recklessly shoot at commercial shipping? And that's what happened. We had a ceasefire, and then they shot at commercial shipping.
Well, you
recklessly.
And some
also
sailors
said
have
at
died.
that
That's what changed it.
same press conference, and I'm going to quote you. You urged Iran to, quote, let innocent ships pass freely. These international waters belong to all nations, not to Iran to tax, toll, or control. Last week, President Trump said the U.S. would charge a 20% toll to each ship to pass through the state. So based on your opposition to tolls, did you talk to the president out of that idea, or did someone else?
Who cares? Who cares?
Iran's not
She asked
charging
the
tolls, and they're
dumbest
shooting at
question.
ships right now.
But
That is not
Trump
what
said
she
that he
asked,
wanted
bro.
to charge a 20% toll.
We have a blockade right now of all Iranian ships and Iranian ports,
Didn't
and
answer.
it's effective.
My time is up.
That's not the question. I respect
Senator
it, though. Gotta respect the hustle,
Thank
guys.
you, Madam Chairman, and thank you all for being here.
God, look at this fossil. Another fossil, bro. God, look at these fucking people. She's a skeleton. She could be a villain in a horror movie.
Times I think we all recognize.
Sorry,
that.
lady.
Secretary Hegseth,
Sure you
I
were
want to ask
good in
just
your prime.
specific to Iran authorization. The administration has made the case that the action in Iran falls under the president's Article 2 authorities, and we can have disagreement. Reasonable people can disagree about the boundaries of the presidential war powers, and have for a long period of time. But I look at the War Powers Resolution, and it's not ambiguous. It requires the president to terminate hostilities within 60 days, absent congressional authorization.
Yeah.
So hostilities began February 28th. May 1st, Congress was informed that hostilities had ended, but yet despite the fact that hostilities had ended, we were still seeing sailors being fired upon still activity. Then in June,
Okay.
an MOU is signed to preserve the ceasefire while
I
negotiating.
mean, look, guys. In the end, when it comes down to is that it's legal mumbo jumbo and jargon is what it is. And so they try and every side tries and argues semantics, which is what law is. Law is trying to fucking argue semantics to figure out, the best wording and the the least ambiguous way to describe something. That's just what law is. It can be funny, it could be fun, it could be interesting. However, most of the time it's kind of annoying. And so the War Powers Act gives, like she said, gives the president the ability to maneuver the military, use the military in most ways without causing a full-on war. But even that in itself is fake. What she's arguing here is that the war has been going on longer than 60 days already. They're going to argue, yeah, but we had a memorandum, so technically it stops. I mean, it's just stupid because in the end, war could be as simple as killing the fucking pig, on the allied side, on your side of the fence. That's that could be a declaration of war. Technically, Russia has declared war on like everyone in Europe at this point because a drone landed here or a drone landed there. Like, this argument she's about to make is fucking retarded.
Negotiations continue. That MOU has now collapsed, and we are seeing the resumed attacks in the Straits of Hormuz. On July 10, the administration sends Congress a new war powers notification, effectively restarting the 60-day clock again. So I'm concerned about this sequence because you have a situation
What is she
where
even?
the claim essentially allows the president to extinguish.
Why is she like talking? I've seen this before too. Why is the senator talking to the Secretary of War about something the president is ordering? What do you want him to do about it? You're the senator. You go change the law. Like what? What? This guy has literally zero power over what you're talking about. None. None at all. It's you and the president who have to argue about this in the federal courts, the Supreme Court. This has nothing to do with this guy.
The war powers clock just at the moment that it becomes legally inconvenient through declaration
no
of
shit.
temporary ceasefire.
You got
Then it's
bamboozled.
reset, avoiding
Change
the
the law,
congressional
dipshit.
authorization that the Constitution requires and the war powers intends. So we had an opportunity in previous appropriations hearing for me to ask if you felt the administration had all the authority that it needed. You indicated at that time that no, additional authority was not needed.
In order to ask what
Is the administration still taking that position about needing no authorization from Congress at this time?
Senator, I know there's a long-standing legal debate on this particular topic, but we certainly as a department share the position of the White House that we have all the authorities necessary at this moment.
So let me just kind of do a follow-on. In the Clinton administration, this is 1999, there was an operation that was launched, Operation Allied Force, NATO airstrikes against Yugoslavia. There was not a prior congressional authorization that was sought. President Clinton notified Congress under the War Powers Resolution and then subsequent to that, sent Congress an emergency supplemental funding request. It was about $6 billion to cover the cost of Kosovo operations.
That's all it took was
Congress
$6 billion.
then passed a supplemental package that covered the president's request plus additional military funding. But Congress never passed a standalone authorization for use of military force in Kosovo. When the war powers clock was set to run out then in May of 1999, the Clinton Justice Department's Office of Legal Counsel issued an opinion holding that the supplemental appropriation itself, passed without any authorizing language, satisfied the War Powers Resolution requirement. So is the department looking to that or intending to rely on that same reasoning that funding alone?
What she's asking is clever. Don't get me wrong. She's basically saying that the Clintons had previously used the passing of this exact same bill or similar as a legal, go ahead to continue the war in Kosovo and Yugoslavia. And she's saying that are they doing the same thing? It is a clever question. However, again, it's kind of pointless to ask Hegseth because he's in no way, like, it's not him. It's not like he goes to the president and he's like, yeah, I'm going to fucking bomb Iran tomorrow. I'm sure he's fine with it. I'm sure he doesn't care. But it's clearly a Trump-level decision or, the fucking who's around him. And if she wanted the law changed, she's a senator. They're the ones who change the law. That's their job. Introduce the laws and change it. So, it's such a weird question to ask him. I think it's a great question in general, but it's a weird question to ask him. He has nothing to do with it. Even if he knew, he's just going to lie, It's not like he's going to put his hands up and be like, you caught me. That was the plan the whole time. I mean,
can substitute for explicit congressional authorization?
Senator, I would have to defer to our legal department, and we'll get back to you with our views on that. But as of right now, we think standalone Article 2 authorities exist for us to conduct this operation on behalf of the defense of the American people, that the president has those authorities, and seeking this funding is important in pursuit of that and our $1.5 trillion budget. But I wouldn't connect the two without consulting with our legal folks first.
In my remaining time, let me turn to you, Secretary Rollins. I appreciate that you have acknowledged that fishermen are farmers of the sea. I don't know whether you are aware.
Thank you for your greatest achievement, which is acknowledging that fishermen are the farmers of the sea. The fuck is that? Who cares?
Whether any fishermen will be eligible for any of the supplemental funding. They too have faced many of the same challenges that our farmers have, with high fuel costs, the impact from tariffs, disasters that we have seen. In the 15 seconds remaining, any help for our fishermen?
Well, I remember having the conversation with you when we were going through the process, and my commitment to you and to Senator Collins and some of our others on the across the aisle was that it's time for USDA to recognize our fishermen as part of our farmers of the sea. That's never happened before.
I didn't know
we
that.
have an office at USDA.
I had no idea that wasn't a thing. Yeah, for sure. We should be doing that.
Focused on fishermen. And so I think as you all move forward with the supplemental, the conversation, and obviously up to you all what that looks like, but very supportive of treating our fishermen similarly to the rest of our farmers. Thank you.
Sure.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Makes sense.
Thank you. Senator Durbin.
Thanks, Madam Chair. Mr. Secretary, I'd like to ask you to help me reconcile some numbers. It's my understanding that this whole supplemental funding request is $87.6 billion, and most of the funding, $67 billion, is for the Department of Defense. Yet we are told the Department of Defense still has $75 billion in unobligated funding from last year's reconciliation package. Is that true?
Roughly correct numbers, yes.
So you left some change on the dresser before you prepared to come for this hearing. What's going to happen to that $75 billion?
Well, that 75 is, there's plans and designs on that, part of the rebuild of our military, which had to be undertaken. And so the One Big Beautiful Bill gave us specific avenues. I'd have to get you the exact numbers of what that is left to be allocated.
Does it have to do with the war in Iran?
No, this is rebuilding our military from what was not funded in the past under the Biden administration. So this is from 2026, One Big Beautiful Bill, which helped move the president's priorities like Golden Dome for America, move away from all the woke priorities of what the Biden administration was pursuing, give us a chance to start cutting these deals on munitions, all the things that the president wanted us to focus on: shipbuilding, hypersonics. I mean, the Biden administration ignored hypersonics. They just decided to pretend like that technology didn't exist and we should invest in it. There are things. I don't know what Lloyd Austin did for 4 years. I really don't. Well, sure the amount of neglect, the amount of stale.
I'll tell you what Lloyd Austin did. Lloyd Austin said that even if Congress didn't want to fund Ukraine, give money to Ukraine, that they would do it anyway. That shit was crazy.
Thinking and bureaucracy was staggering when we took over. So One Big Beautiful Bill gave us a chance to get
Let me interrupt your speech for a minute, Mr. Secretary. It's my turn to ask questions. I've been listening patiently while you made your presentation. You estimated at one point that the cost of the war in Iran was $29 billion, but then added a caveat that there was a replacement of munitions, for example. Do you have a new estimate about what the war has cost us so far in the 5th month of the first year of this war in Iran?
Senator, the estimate we have as of today is $37.5 billion.
And is the current activity, which
I'm not going to lie, $40 billion for everything we've done so far, it seems really low to me. I believe it's true. Which, again, it kind of goes back to my earlier point about how effective, when they want the dollar to be effective, it's, it goes a long way. It's insane how far money will go. And yet, all of a sudden, when it's about giving money to a foreign country or a foreign state or to some kind of charity thing, it's like, well, we need to send $4 billion to the King of Jordan. Don't know why, but it's like, okay, if $4 billion secures our borders in America, imagine what $4 billion does for the King of Jordan. I don't know, dude, it's insane. It's so insane. And $40 billion is how much the war cost so far. I imagine they're getting a lot done. I imagine they're bombing, targets appropriately, just for the sake of the argument. $1.5 trillion is how much they're asking for in total for the military. That number is unfathomable. But just imagine if they were truly being as effective as they could, which is amazingly effective when they want to be, with $1.5 trillion. Bro, we could have world peace, end world hunger, conquer the moon, fucking spread civilization. It's just insane, bro. It's insane how much money is wasted. It's crazy how much. Dude, the federal government just lives off this shit. None of them actually work, and they just live off this.
The exchange of fire back and forth in Iran, an indication that number is going to go up in the months ahead.
Some of that number captures additional O&M, mill pay, and other that would be anticipated through the fiscal year. So some of that anticipates what costs would be going out in the future as well.
So the new number you've given me is what?
$37.5 billion.
And that represents the cost of the war through what period of time?
60 days.
Through now for certain aspects of it, but also mill pay, O&M, other anticipated costs through September 30th, Senator.
General Kane, let me ask you a question. I joined a group of senators, some are here, Senator Rounds, Senator Coons, Senator Shaheen, and met with President Zelensky in Turkey during the NATO summit. He was very explicit in terms of what he needed to win. He feels the momentum in Ukraine is moving to his side, and that he is putting a foot forward instead of back. Is that your feeling?
Sir, I think the pressure that Ukraine is putting on Russia is substantive at this point.
Do you acknowledge his request that we help them with air defenses as a high priority?
Sure, I know he's made the request. Whether or not that moves forward is always a debate at our civilian leadership, but I'm aware of that request.
Ultimately, here's what's going on. I've been watching the Ukraine-Russia thing closely. I haven't really talked about it in a while. We used to talk about it a lot. Momentum mostly has stalled for both sides at this point, which is good for Ukraine because they were losing a lot of grounds. And both sides have just opted into bombing each other with drones. So basically what's going on is Ukraine manufactures a lot of drones right now, amazingly. Well, they're also they're being given a lot of drones kind of below the table. And that's not something they'll ever say out loud. A lot of it's coming from the U.S. That's not something you'll say out loud. But a lot of drones are being built outside the country and getting shipped in. And then they get sent into Russia, and they bomb Russia in droves, in waves. And Russia does the same back. That's kind of what's been going on. Here's ultimately the problem. So they really want to increase the Patriot system, which is the missile, surface-air missile to air defense, which we've seen. It's like the Iron Dome, except they're portable. It's a great system for ballistic missiles. It's terrible against drones. Not because it can't hit the drones, but because it's a complete waste of the actual missiles themselves. And so it's almost pointless for us to keep funding these dog shit old missile battery systems, at least in the context of drones, because of how ineffective they are. And instead, we really need to move towards the laser defense systems, without a doubt. That just is what it is. So I'm kind of annoyed that we spend so much time on this particular subject, because it's really not the rockets that are doing the damage.
Are you aware of the fact that we appropriated and the president signed into law $400 billion of supplemental funding for Ukraine, including money for air defenses?
I am, sir.
Are you also aware the administration has informed us that that money will not be available in many aspects until the next president is in office?
Good.
Sure, I'm not aware of that.
Why are we giving more money away? And what's crazy is $400 million is nothing compared to the $4 billion to Jordan, the $6 billion to Israel. The fuck is all this money going for? What the hell is going on?
My
that's a
understanding was that capital had been allocated, but I'll have to defer to my civilian
Bro,
leader.
and here we go. It's again the same story that has happened 1,000 times when it comes to Ukraine. We have one guy who says, "Hey, we gave you $1 bajillion. It's supposed to go to Ukraine." The guy who had, quote, received the money and then handed it over to the next guy goes, "Huh? Well, I sent it to Ukraine." And then Zelensky goes on stage and goes, "We never got it." This has been a consistent event that has happened across 2 administrations now, consecutively. It's happened over and over. It's just like, bro, and these are your tax dollars. They're just fucking vanishing into thin air. And we're just hearing it live. This guy goes, "Huh, we gave you guys $400 million to give to Ukraine last year." This guy goes, "Well, I thought I gave it to him." And then I'm telling you, Zelensky's going to come out tomorrow and be like, "Never got it, bro." And they're all driving fucking, Mercedes Benzes around partying it up. It's insanity. It's so crazy, bro. I can't with it. I can't.
I'm sorry to tell you the pay plan tells us to be prepared to spend that money in fiscal year 29. The new president, whoever it may be, will make that decision. If you're talking about air defenses,
What is even the point of that? You set aside $400 million to get spent at some point between now and 2029? Bro, all of Ukraine can fall by then. What is even the point of that? The fuck is going on? Are these boomers like using the government as their own bank? They're like private bank? Is that what's going on here? Like, what the fuck is happening? 2029 is 3 years from now. Ukraine just had to dump like half of its fucking federal government. Like, what is happening?
and the momentum on side of Zelensky, what impact will it have if we cannot fund this for 3 years?
Why are we funding it?
I want to highlight that.
Why is the goal to fund it for 3 years? Sorry, I don't want to spend a lot of time on this, but like, I'm losing my mind.
Incredible work that the Ukraine industrial base is doing as they scale their own capabilities.
Where's the money? What is happening?
Ranges from their surface to air capabilities to their air to air capabilities. I'll note that recently we had the first air to air kill where a Ukrainian F-16 shot down a Russian fighter. So I think their ability to scale their layered defense has come along a long way over the past couple years with that.
Just to recap what just happened, the senator said, "What happened to the money we gave you to give to Ukraine?" This guy said, "I don't know, but, the Ukrainians are doing a really good job." What the fuck?
Help and assistance of many.
General, thank you for your service to the country, and I'm sorry for our losses. I believe 17 servicemen have given their lives in Iran so far.
40, I think.
Hundreds have been injured. We should acknowledge that fact. And let me also say, we're at a moment in history where we can win the war in Ukraine. That victory would be critically important for those people who have fought for more than 4 years against the odds.
I mean, what? What is this guy? What just got beamed into his skull? What just got beamed into his brain? What is he rambling about? We can win the war. Who the fuck is we, dude? We can win the war. Why? Because $400 million that you gave just vanished? What is happening? What the fuck is happening? How? How are we going to win the war? Patriot missiles are an amazing feat of technology. They're great. They're necessary. But how are we going to win the war with those? With just those? Like, what?
And proven they can put Putin back on his heels. But instead of finding the money that they need now for air defense,
this guy rehearsed this speech?
We're putting more money into this exchange with Iran, a war of choice, which we never should have entered. Thank you, General.
But, brother, I mean, I don't know. This guy's fucking retarded, too. It's just, again, you got to look at it like this. You got Republicans who want war in Iran. You got Democrats who want war with Russia. It's like, you just cannot win, dude. It's crazy.
Senator Moran.
Chairwoman Collins, thank you very much. Let me first begin with just a statement to you, Secretary Rollins. Thank you for your leadership. Thank you for your attention to disaster assistance. Hugely significant and important in many states represented here, but across the country. And it is as challenging circumstances as I've seen farmers in in my time and representing them in the United States Congress. And I appreciate my colleague, Senator Rounds, for making that case today. I appreciate the efforts by Senator Bozeman, the chairman of the Ag Committee, and Senator Rounds and his Vice Chairman Shaheen for their efforts here on this committee for that effort. Secretary Hegseth, let me ask you about your recent visit to the 101st Airborne Division. You saw the MV-75 Cheyenne. You saw it firsthand and heard from soldiers, as I understand it, about the next generation capabilities, how they will transform the way we fight. The Cheyenne has broken through, and it appears to me, in the acquisition bureaucracy to deliver a capability for our war fighting much faster.
If you don't know what's happening right now, this guy got paid by Boeing or fucking Lockheed or whoever makes this drone to basically drop an ad. That's basically what is happening right now. This guy is literally reading an ad out loud to the rest of these senators and to the Secretary of War. That's what's happening, believe it or not.
Than it otherwise would have happened.
Jesus.
As you look across acquisition, I mean, we're here talking about appropriations, but the ultimate success we'll have in defending our country is putting that money to work as quickly as possible. So as you look at acquisition, what would you tell me we learned from the Cheyenne?
Look
Is
at
it a
him.
model
It's an
how
ad.
the department can, it intends to field the next generation of capacity going forward? What does the program need from this committee to
You
both?
fucking dude, are you fucking kidding me right now? This guy's like, yeah, the Cheyenne drone, it's really good, isn't it? It's a good fucking drone. I'm gonna look it up after I finish it. He's like, yes, yeah, really good. You need more money, don't you? You need more money to buy that drone. It's really good, isn't it? Yeah, you need some money. Yeah, I can kickbacks. Yeah, bro, fuck this guy, dude. What the hell?
Schedule and the necessity of its capabilities.
This guy's
Senator, I appreciate the question. I think it's in part.
I'm sure you do.
One of the untold stories of our department is how we've tried to revolutionize the speed and scale of new acquisitions and procurement. Some of it through munitions and ensuring that companies pay for building their own factories and their own assembly lines so that we're saving billions and billions as taxpayers while companies invest. And when you invest in something with your own money, you want to see it succeed ahead of schedule and on time. Also opening the aperture so it's not just the prime contractors that are competing, but new entrants who make high cost and low cost capabilities. I think in particular on the Cheyenne and you know the Black Hawk and the replacement.
Bro, this fucking dude, I'm telling you it's an ad. I'm looking at it right now. I mean, don't get me wrong, it looks cool as fuck. But like, there's no way this guy was just reading an ad out loud. I mean, this thing looks sick. It's a UAV. Like, I'm a fucking whore for tech, especially military tech. It is what it is. Let me see if I can't pull this up for you guys. And it looks fantastic. But there's no way that this guy wasn't, paid to say all that shit, because he was just fucking glazing this thing like crazy. Sorry, just 1 second. I'm just trying to pull it up. Oh, man. Sick drone. He's like, yeah, you need more money for that drone? You need more money for that drone? Oh, my God. God bless America. Let's see. So it's this chopper here. And again, don't get me wrong. It looks really cool. I like it. Looks sick. But I don't know if we need to have an ad in the middle of a Senate hearing for it. This here was actually just announced by Andrill, which, God bless that company if it ever goes public. Also just looks, it looks like something from the robot movie where Terminator, I forget what the company, Skynet. It looks like a Skynet drone for sure. It's probably modeled after that. They'll probably come to kill us all, but damn, it looks sick. I'm a whore for military, guys. It is what it is. We're military tech.
The gap that
and so is the old guy
have identified could exist based on the hesitation on speed and replacement exists because of an austerity mindset, again, that goes back to the Biden administration of divest to invest. And so you end up divesting in certain systems like the Black Hawk before the next one is online, creating gaps for actual operators. And what we're funding in this supplemental and across this budget is the ability to do both. Make sure the systems we rely on the battlefield right now are delivered, and that newer entrants that we're going to need for long-range fight to deliver to be more survivable in contested environments, which you're talking about. When I had a chance to see it, the soldiers were proud to be in it because they felt like it would give them greater advantage in the future. We need to accelerate the timelines of those and deliver them even more quickly.
Of course you do, because you all get money.
New entrants with all the right incentives, those things happen, and it's happening in that.
Will that take place? I think you may have just said this, but will take place in this circumstance of the Cheyenne?
I believe in this administration, because of the policies of this administration, it is likely to do so. Just like the B-21, just like the F-47, just like so many other of our exquisite munitions that otherwise would have taken years and years to even get into development. We're moving those things left by, in some cases, years, so that we get them in the hands of warfighters who would need them right now and not held up in bureaucracy in this town.
Thank you, sir. Let me turn to you, General Kane.
Okay,
the
good use of your
Department is
time, buddy.
requesting
Hope you got paid
significant
well for that.
supplemental to address the ongoing operational demands. Our adversaries are watching how we resource this moment. Beijing, Moscow, Tehran are all increasingly coordinating their activities and intelligence. In your judgment, do you believe our adversaries view this moment as an opportunity to exploit U.S. commitments elsewhere? And how does this supplemental ensure our deterrence posture and our commitments to allies remain credible in every theater all at once?
Well, sir, thanks for the question.
Notice how he gave this guy like a really complex question. He was like, yeah, do you know if this fight here makes us look weak elsewhere and therefore might be taken advantage of? What are the implications of that? Could we be in trouble? This guy's going to give some complex answer, but Pete Hegseth, he was like, damn, hey, them new fucking military helicopters like sick as hell. We need to buy a lot of those, right? Right? And Pete Hegseth is like, yeah.
In my job, it's to look across the globe and look at the range of trade-offs out there. We are the strongest military in the world.
We're the strongest military in the world. Iran is looking weakest it's been in 40 years, and yet somehow this next fight it's going to take 60 days and also probably forever for some reason somehow. And also, 20 U.S. dead military members and hundreds injured. Okay, sure. Yep.
Adversaries
Surely we
still
look strong.
fear America's ability to project power at the time and place of our choosing. There is no doubt that they are aligning, as I've said before. And I think this supplemental and whatever funding structure the Congress, working with the executive branch, decides to structure and give us the capital, we'll use that capital to ensure that we sustain that, sir.
You're assuring us that this supplemental and further efforts will reduce the risks to our nation and its national securities issues.
Yes, sir. I view this, and I've spoken to some of you on the phone leading up to this. I view this as future investments to buy down risk, similar to what I said Marshall thought through in those heady days in 1940, where the need to invest capital early to deliver scale is an opportunity that I hope we don't miss, Senator.
General, thank you. Thank you, Chairwoman.
Senator Reed.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Secretary Rollins, I just want to reiterate a point that Senator Padilla made.
I mean, isn't it okay? So for those who are only listening, the Madam Chairman, I forget her name, it's an R. She's like kind of shaking pretty hard. I thought this is a sign of Parkinson's. I just not to be an ableist or anything, but I just feel like I know Parkinson's eventually has mental degradation. I think. Not really sure this person should be serving as a senator if that is a symptom.
We have $10 billion in this request for Midwestern farmers who are suffering because of the interruption of fuel and fertilizers because of the President Trump's war, unauthorized war. Yet, many states, blue states particularly, have submitted requests. Rhode Island has one.
Cognitive impairment is one of the non-motor symptoms. I feel like, that's kind of important as a senator. Also, dear God, if you are only listening, this guy currently talking looks like a troll. Like he might. I think he's a troll. Like if you took a troll, like the little troll dolls. He's even really short. He looks exactly like a troll and gave the troll human skin. That's this guy. He looks just like him.
February, we had the worst snowstorm in our recent
They just
history.
lowered the camera down so he doesn't look so short.
And we've been denied by the president. In fact, if you look at the numbers, 20% of blue states seem to get approved and about 80% of red states. I'm making a point, not asking a question. This is unfair.
Skill issue.
Thank you. Secretary
I also want to point out, I don't know if he's the only one, but he's wearing a Ukraine American flag pin.
On February 28th, when you initiated this war without authorization from Congress, the Straits of Hormuz was open and providing vital fuel supplies for the whole world. Now they're closed effectively, impacting globally the price of oil and the economies of the whole world. But the Department of Defense has been planning for potential operations against Iran for many, many years. And one of their obvious assumptions was that the Strait of Hormuz could be closed. Were you unaware of that?
What? Senator, you are correct. Nobody plans more and looks at more contingencies than our department. And so, of course, undertaking a historic effort like this, of this scope and scale, of course, the Strait of Hormuz was front and center in every single aspect of that. Hence why one of our key objectives to begin with was to sink the entirety of Iran's Navy, which its conventional Navy was sunk. Now, you can't get rid of every single fast boat and every single machine gun and a fast boat or every single coastal cruise missile. So we acknowledge that if the state...
But why? I guess is my question. Like, maybe I'm just dumb, but why not, right? Like, even if you used dummy bombs, and I don't mean dummy in the sense they don't go off, dummy as in they're not targeted. You just drop them, old school. And even then, with the current technology, you can still land them. Why not exactly? You know what I'm saying? Like, cruise missiles aren't small, and if you we saw Trump say that they had a satellite where they could literally see a badge on a scientist entering some fucking sandhill on the middle of a desert. So, like, I don't know. My question is, why can't you see this happening? Like, I don't really get it exactly. If you have that much intelligence and you have this much firepower, I just don't see, like, why not? Like, how many combatants are there? I don't know. I don't get the metrics. They just don't make sense to me. I don't understand it at all. And, like, for reference, we were blowing up little cartel boats, little, rowboats that had motors strapped on the back with no problem. And they said not a single one was making it through. So why can't we stop the Iran bombs? I don't get it. It doesn't make sense to me. And America's been spending trillions of dollars on military ammunitions. Well, it's supposed to have been for, I don't know, like, what, 40 years, 50 years? And we haven't even been in a conventional war in quite a while. I don't know. The numbers don't make sense to me at all. Why don't we just drop all of our old shit?
Decided to become a terror state, shooting at commercial shipping, that would be an ongoing and contested part of the battle, to include their willingness to mine international water. So one side weaponized the strait, and we've been fighting back the entire time.
Completely aware that the Strait of Hormuz could be closed, and obviously sinking their ships has not affected their ability to effectively close the straits.
We had U.S. boats that surrendered to Iranian ships under the Biden administration. So their Navy was effective in expeditionary ways in the past.
We're talking about a war you
started,
this is
true too.
Not a situation in which oil was flowing freely.
That being said, it's like, just last week they had a tanker get hit and kill a bunch of sailors. So, like, I don't know, apples to oranges or whatever. I've got one administration that lets a cargo ship get captured and then we airdrop $400 million to buy it back. And I've got another one that lets them get blown up. So, I don't know what the trade-offs are here.
There was no conflict. We weren't losing personnel as a result of Iranian actions. So
what? Huh? That's just also untrue.
Your fallback to the Biden administration is just a very, very obvious excuse for what I think is probably, as you described so often, gross negligence. You did not fully inform the president that you would be in a situation where the Strait of Hormuz could be effectively closed, oil prices could surge, and effectively the
Buddy,
Iranians could
I'm not even in the military. I'm not in the cabinet. I'm a random civilian who scrolls Twitter, and even I know that in a scenario like this, they would close the strait, like, and seize cargo ships. What are you even saying? You think the president needs to know that? He knows that too. Everybody on the planet knows that. You're the only one who's surprised? We feel like all of a sudden looking at a map of where Iran is, and you're like, oh shit, that they're gonna block the strait. Like, well, everybody knew what was gonna happen. We bomb Iran every year under every administration. This happens every year.
Maintain their ability to strike back as they are right now. They just killed some of our servicemen last weekend.
This battlefield and all the dynamics of it, of which the chairman and I are responsible for ensuring the president understands every branch and sequel of what could happen, and we did.
So
the fact that those contingencies all were part of the possibility, and we understood that, is all the more reason why President Trump deserves the kind of praise he should get for undertaking this effort, having the courage to ensure that crazy Islamists can't have a nuclear weapon to hold us at issue. And he's been willing to stay committed to that regardless of the challenges.
Excuse me. So he should be praised. He should be praised for starting a war without authority, creating a situation in which the world economy is suffering tremendously. We have to...
I fall back on who voted for this guy. Seriously. He can barely speak. Who voted for this guy? I don't get it. The always blue, always red boomer population. Like, I'll never understand it, guys. I'll never understand it. This guy can barely speak.
Extra money for our farmers, and we have no outcome, at least no realistic outcome in sight yet. Let me switch to General Kane. General Kane, these airstrikes have not yet deterred and defeated the Iranians. Do you think airstrikes alone will do that?
So I think academically, as you look across the totality of history, air power's got limits, and we always have to be mindful of those. I think where America's area of exclusivity is when we bring the totality of the diplomatic, informational, economic, and pair that with the military, and there's a lot of that work going on.
Well, the military, the next step would be escalation by ground combat. Do you anticipate that escalation?
Sir, I think it'd be unhelpful for me to opine on hypotheticals. What I can tell you is we always develop an unbelievable amount of options and the associated risks. And then my main job is to always ensure that leaders understand those options and the risks.
Now, if you employ ground troops to seize objectives, which I would assume would be the first stage, are you prepared for an extended guerrilla war, which would likely happen in that area?
Sir, with all due respect, I think it'd be unhelpful for me to opine on hypothetical situations, on whatever decisions the president may or may not take in the future.
Honestly. Have you advised the president that a ground combat would be very expensive in the lives of our soldiers, sailors, Marines, airmen, and also could probably lead to an extended unconventional war in that area? I don't see the Iranians sort of throwing their hands up saying, welcome to Iran.
Senator, I always advise the president on a range of military options and all of the risks that are contained within that, but I have to keep my military advice to the president private, sir.
Well, thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Senator Hoeven.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Secretary Rollins, I want to thank President Trump, and I want to thank you for including farm bridge assistance in this supplemental request.
Oh, my God. I don't even know how to describe this guy. I don't know, like a Colonel Sanders-looking motherfucker is probably the best way to do it, but there's no way this guy's not in the files. I'll just say that much. He looks like one.
I know I've worked very hard to get it included. I know you have worked very hard to get it included, and I want to thank you and your whole department for your work on it and for this vital support of our farmers and ranchers. What I want to ask you about, though, is actually crop insurance. The number one risk management tool that our farmers have is crop insurance. And the buy-up option is critically important. It covers 67 million acres, 67 million acres of farmland in this country. It was decommissioned, and we need to get reinstated. Again, you and I both worked very hard on this. Please update me on where we are in terms of getting that buy-up option for crop insurance reinstated.
We are 100% supportive of that and are moving forward to execute that buy-up option. Thank you for your leadership on that, Senator.
Thank you for your support. Also, Assistant Secretary Fortas for his
I don't know what you're
support.
Insurance for farmland.
It's very
right?
impactful, very important, and will make a big difference for our farmers right now. So thank you for that.
Fight the pilot
Are Russia and China helping Iran? And if so, how?
Some of these questions are so fucking stupid. I'll never understand the point. I feel like, I don't know, like they're just there to just take up a slot and waste time.
Well, Senator, as the chairman alluded to, there's definitely adversary alignment, attempts to do so.
It's actually crazy how much help they're getting. I mean, maybe not, I don't know, but and I'm not sure what the effect is here, but I'll tell you. I don't know if he'll tell you, but it looks like the Iranians are most definitely, sorry, the Chinese are most definitely giving, maybe Russians too, but it looks like the Chinese are most definitely giving the Iranians satellite power in terms of targeting using cruise missiles to target U.S. stuff. The base that those soldiers died on, 100% was because of the Chinese. They're not going to tell you that because they don't want us to get pissed off at the Chinese and start demanding war. But 1,000%, they thought the soldiers at that base were safe because they didn't think they could get targeted in the way that they were targeted, and they were targeted using Chinese satellites. Again, they're not going to say that out loud. Don't worry, guys. I'll do it for you. I've seen a lot of research on it. And the reason that it was those two kids, their deaths kind of actually sent shockwaves through the department because, again, they didn't think that the Iranians could do that, and the only reason they could was because the Chinese helped them. So we started bombing bridges that the Iranians and the Chinese were using to pass over munitions. That was like the start. And then that happened, and so we are definitely seeing some escalation there.
There are many ways that we deter that, some of which are, and the depth and extent of it ought to remain classified, and it should, but there
there you go.
are
Don't
ways
worry,
in which both of those countries are at limiting, at different levels, enabling some of the things Iran is doing. Yes.
General Kane, would you like to add?
Sir, I'd rather not opine on the specifics.
This guy really likes the word opine.
What we know, and I never want the adversary to know what I know. I just want to.
I know, guys. I know. I know, and now you know. It's terrible shit, to be honest with you. It's fucked up. The U.S. didn't think that it was possible, and the Iranians and the Chinese were able to get it done, is really what happened. They used Chinese satellites, probably Chinese satellites, to target U.S. soldiers. It's not good. And a lot of that has to do with, there's going to be a lot of upcoming sanctions against China, a lot more tariff stuff against China. There's about to be a lot more actions against China from the U.S. It's part of the reason there's a lot more rhetoric, too. Not just this bill having to do with Israel and them trying to distract from it, but you're going to see a lot more, you're going to hear a lot more about the crimes of China these next few months. And a lot of it is because of those soldiers dying. It was Chinese satellites that were used.
Know it.
And hopefully we'll get a chance to do that.
The Chinese told the Iranians where to strike.
Yes, sir.
SCIF.
Yes, sir. Happy to do that in the SCIF, sir.
This relates both to the funding, but also, again, to how we
Or
achieve
Russian,
our
I think it was
objectives with Iran. starting with you, Secretary, can we get to the point, and we're seeing continued, I think, improvement and progress on this, but essentially where we can work, and hopefully our allies they need to step in there with us.
They're not
But
going
where
to.
we get
We
to
don't
the
have
point
allies.
where we can
We don't have allies. It is what
operate
it is, which is
in the
fine.
Strait of Hormuz, but keep Iran blockaded. We're continuing to get better at that, but that's how we keep. They'll never do anything that they say they're going to do. They've proven that over and over. We have to keep the pressure on.
They said they would bomb a ship that passed. They bombed the ships that passed. I mean, listen, Iran does make up a lot of shit, but they've managed to pull that off. So, calm down, buddy. He's playing for the team, and he's giving his speech and support.
But if we can do that effectively, we keep the pressure on and achieve our objectives. Tell us where we are in getting that accomplished.
Senator, I think that's a really good point. That's effectively what we did to create the pressure that led to the circumstances of the MOU, which was we're running the route where ships, and we did it covertly in cooperation with Gulf countries and others who were willing to take some of the risk with our protection and then maintain the blockade. So effectively, oil's coming in and out, oil prices are coming down, but our blockade is staying and the pressure is mounting on Iran. That's something
the oil prices went up and down based on speculation. In actual terms of effect on market, there's a delay. There'll always be a delay. That just is. It is what it is. You buy it up until it's gone, and all of a sudden you go there to buy it, and it's not there, and then the prices skyrocket. You're talking about like stocks, and that's not the same thing.
Done and can continue to do. We moved into an MOU where Iran said we won't shoot at shipping, and then the IRGC turned around and decided to start shooting at commercial shipping again. At which point the president, as he should, cannot tolerate that, and so we respond, as he said 10 times. You shoot at ships, we're going to shoot at you overwhelmingly, which we have been doing now for, I believe it's a 10th consecutive evening. So consequences come with the willingness to shoot at commercial shipping. Our blockade has been reimposed and is effectively impenetrable. We got seized a ship inside the Arabian Gulf as well. So there's a lot of different angles to it, a lot of levers we can pull, and ultimately a lot of the strikes that Admiral Cooper and CENTCOM have been undertaking are taking Iran's ability to see and sense away in the Strait of Hormuz, which has tactical benefits for us.
And that's what this funding is about. This funding is about making sure that we and our allies can operate in the Strait of Hormuz, which helps bring down energy prices for every single American
Stop
consumer,
chafing yourself.
and that we force Iran to meet our objectives. Isn't that what this package is all about?
This is a peace through strength package.
Right on.
That's what 1.5 trillion has always been about.
Yeah, bro. Yeah, right on. Yeah, blockade the strait, bro. Yeah, then Iran will come to the table. Yeah, that's what they're known for. Yeah, bro. Yeah, right on.
Operational investment, as the chairman alluded to, a step change moment. We need to be able to do it at speed, at scale, with autonomy, with AI, with exquisite high cost and low cost, to be ahead and stay ahead, so that you're not just able to do what we need to do in the Strait of Hormuz, but deter adversaries like Russia and China from getting involved in future contingencies.
And just General Kane, for any follow-up that you would like on that issue.
Sir,
they're circle jerking each other right now, guys.
Again, thank you, and thank you to all of our men and women in uniform. We appreciate them so much.
Whatever, bro.
Senator Shaheen.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Secretary Hegseth.
You'll notice none of them ask, what's our objective? Not a single senator has been like, what's the goal? I don't understand what the goal is. Not a single one. And it's mostly because they're all paid for and on the war. They don't care.
You last testified before this committee, we finally received the spend plan for the $400 million FY26 appropriation for Ukraine security assistance.
Oh my God.
This funding was passed back in January, and now there are only 3 months left in this fiscal year. And while I appreciate that we now see what most of the funding is intended for, I just heard from the CEO of one of the manufacturers of the defense articles that are contained in the spend plan that they not only haven't received funding, but they haven't even seen a contract. So when are we going to see a contract for those defense articles that are contained?
Oh my God, lady, have you been sucking the fucking contractor's dick only recently or your whole life? Well, honestly, guys, this is how it works. So the Senate and the House Representatives, they join committees. So there's a committee for health, there's a committee for war, committee for blah, committee for tech, blah, blah, blah. And they all get to sign up and join. Now, what you'll quickly learn is from watching these is that the health committee, anything on health, well, most of those centers are bought out by big pharma. You can see here with the war committee or whatever these guys are, most of these guys are bought out by the defense industry. And that's just really common, unfortunately. So this woman here is also paid for, and she's speaking on behalf of some company that didn't get their money. So God bless her for representing that company and not the people of America.
And the spend plan for Iraq.
For Iraq?
I'm sorry, for Ukraine.
For Ukraine. Senator, I'll have to get back to you on the specifics of the timeline of that. I'll talk to our policy shop as well as the UCOM commander to determine where that's at.
Well,
yes, please. God forbid this defense company didn't get their money.
Committee that you've barely spent half of the $150 billion in reconciliation funding, and if you still have $75 billion available, why are you asking the American people to absorb the cost of a war they don't support, instead of asking for transfer authority for unspent reconciliation funding, especially if you can't even get $400 million in Ukraine funding out the door?
As I mentioned earlier, Senator, that money from the One Big Beautiful Bill is otherwise allocated to the rebuilding of our military with priorities of the president like Golden Dome for America and hypersonics and other munitions investments that we made up front as we tried to adjust the Biden budget into an America First budget. And so reallocating that away from those priorities is robbing Peter to pay Paul. Those are allocated to rebuild.
But my point is,
and ultimately we're committed
if you can't
to
spend
this
it
year's
on
agenda.
a timeline that makes sense, why do you need to come back and ask for more money? Wouldn't it be better to spend money that you already have? And one of the things I noted was, or at least I think that this supplemental
money's going
doesn't
somewhere
include
else,
funding
going out of
to
the
repair
country.
damage to our bases or to our military infrastructure in the region. And I have not heard that we've gotten the full extent of any of those damage estimates. So should we expect another request to address that military construction costs? And at what point do you stop asking Americans to foot the bill for a war they don't support on top of an inflated budget?
How hilarious is it that this woman is like, yeah, why would we give you money to support the war in the Middle East when the Americans don't want it? But also, what about the war in Ukraine? We should be sending them money. Like, come on, bro. Is this real life? Cannot be that unserious.
Request and billions in reconciliation funds that you still haven't spent.
Well, Senator, I obviously don't agree with your characterization of that.
I appreciate that, but you didn't ask. But I want you to answer my question. I know you don't agree with my characterization. I don't agree with yours either.
Well, one of the reasons I take issue with that characterization is something that Senator Durbin said when he talked about Ukraine and he talked about winning. And I appreciate as much as anybody winning a war. But I sit in front of a committee that wants to talk about winning a war that's been going on for 4 years and talks about strategic defeat of a conflict that's been going on for 4 months to prevent Iran from getting a nuclear bomb. I would,
God, bro. To prevent Iran from getting a nuclear bomb. They've been building the bomb for 40 years. We gotta give Israel $6 billion to stop them from getting a nuclear bomb. What are you yapping about, bro? Like, again, in what way is what we're doing right now going to stop them from getting a nuclear bomb? We're blockading the straits so they don't get a nuclear bomb. We're bombing the IRGC so they don't get a nuclear bomb. Like, where's the logic here at all? I don't get it. It doesn't make any sense. I know it's not supposed to, but it's just so fucking retarded. So they don't get a nuclear bomb. They've been building a nuclear bomb apparently for 40 years. What's the end goal? We just bomb them indefinitely for all eternity? It just doesn't make any sense. If you look at any other war in the past, except maybe the Vietnam War, although I kind of get it just because of the way the Korean War went. But this one just doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense. We don't even get oil out of this. Even the oil wars make sense. This one it's like nothing. It's just no logic here. It doesn't make any sense. Stop them from getting a nuclear bomb. Who's giving them a nuclear bomb by sea or by land? I don't get it. And I love how none of the senators question them. I've got one senator who's like, yeah, the Americans don't support the Iran war. We should stop using money for that, but also use money for the Ukraine war that apparently she thinks Americans also support. Like, what? Huh? The other guy thinks all of a sudden Ukraine is winning a war because we give them Patriot missiles. Like, what is going? Like, everyone in this room just is an enemy.
Hope for some perspective in this town of the historic nature of what President Trump is undertaking. Do you want radical Islamists to have a nuclear bomb that can stare down the world?
Because I have limited time.
Radical Islamists already have a nuclear bomb. It's called fucking United Kingdom, in France, in Germany. Like, at this point, without a doubt, Muslims are going to get nuclear bombs within Europe before Iran makes one. That's for sure. 100%. If you really want to be concerned, I would be concerned about that. Like, what?
You can't answer my question, then I will move on to my next question. Secretary Rollins, the timber industry has also been hard hit, as you know, by trade wars, by drought, by wildfires, by other natural disasters that are increasingly common.
She talks about climate change. I'm going to lose it.
Which is the second most heavily forested state in the nation. One of the things that we really need, as you know, because we've had this conversation, is a research program and Forest Service staffing on the ground in a variety of ways, but particularly at Bartlett Experimental Forest. These small investments in research and staffing and sound management help make the forest economies healthier and more competitive. I very much appreciate your having staff visit Bartlett last week with my staff and...
Okay, so she's a shill for that company. That's what this means, right?
With staff from the governor's office. But can you commit to restoring staffing at Bartlett and to keeping the facilities there open? Now that you've seen the critical nature of that research?
Why don't I follow up with you? I have not gotten a report from their visit, so I would like to do that first. But obviously, you and I have been in a continuing conversation about that. The good news, there's no doubt our timber industry is in distress and has been for a long time. The fact that we import 90% or something from other countries of our lumber needs is crazy. We're changing that. But the good news, we had more board feet sold last year than any time in 30 years. This year, we're going to exceed that target again. So we're making the right moves on this, but there's no doubt that research is important to that, as we've discussed. And I'll follow up with our team, and then we'll reconnect.
Thank you. I appreciate that. As you pointed out, research is critical to ensuring that the timber economy continues to be successful. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Senator Kennedy.
Oh, I love this guy. He's my favorite. He's so funny.
Thank you, Madam
Guys,
Chair. Thank you all.
You're in for a treat. This guy is, he's a shill. It is what it is, but he's at least competent enough to be entertaining.
All for being here today. General, in the war between Russia and Ukraine, who do we want to win?
Sir, I want Ukraine to win.
Is Russia America's friend?
I'm sorry, I couldn't quite hear your question.
Is Russia America's friend?
I think that depends on your definition of friend. I think it's a complicated relationship. But no, I don't think they're our friends.
Thank you.
Is that it? Is he yielding back his time?
If we could cut off Russia's cash flow,
you can't, by the way.
Which depends substantially
on Europe,
on its sale of oil, would that help Ukraine win?
So I think militarily, anytime you can restrict resources and cash flows against...
I don't know if this is where he's going with this, but, I mean, first of all, Russia is about to turn the tap off on Europe before Europe could get off the titty. That's just untrue. At this point, Europe needs Russia more than Russia needs Europe, because Russia is I mean, they're just able to sell to so many other countries at this point. And so in the end, Europe just loses twice, basically. But, it has nothing to do with their sale of oil.
I have so much respect for you.
Yes, sir.
but I have so little time.
Yes, sir. I'll try to be
Just
briefer.
Give me succinct answers.
Yes, sir. It would assist a.
Would help, wouldn't
yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay. If we could stop people, entities, and countries from buying Russia's oil, that would help cut off its cash flow, wouldn't it?
Yes, sir.
We have a bill to do that, as I'm sure you're aware. We have the votes today to pass it.
Is it in the
overwhelmingly?
NDAA bill?
I also have enormous respect and admiration for our majority leader, Senator Thune.
Okay, well, I don't.
But I hope everybody on this panel will today contact Senator Thune and ask him to bring that bill to the floor.
Oh.
We should vote on it at a minimum of next week.
Like, again, I was talking about Kennedy, this guy here. He is, he's a hardcore Republican. He leans that far. He leans, he's going to vote. He's voting yes for the NDAA. He's paid for by APAC and blah, 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 just like the rest of them. Just getting that out of the way. But in terms of reasonableness, assuming the bill is what it says it is, it makes sense. I'm glad of the hour we've been sitting here. Finally, somebody says something that makes sense and is of importance in some way. It's actionable intelligence is what I call it. A bill that stops countries from buying Russian oil in a war that we want Russia to lose. Fine. Great. That makes sense. Bless. Like I said, this guy, he is what he is, politician. Don't get me wrong. But he is of some form of sense.
Some of my colleagues, General, want America to just stop in Iran.
Yeah.
In the blockade, bring all of our warriors home.
Yeah.
What would be the consequences of that, in your estimation?
The thing is, and people are going to be polar on it, is what it is. I don't think anyone's sitting around. We are getting to the point. But most people, if you had asked them 10 years ago, do you think it'd be like, okay, if we were told that Iran had a nuclear weapon and we need to go in, let's be like, okay, well, shit is what it is. Got to go through. Fine. Do what you got to do to stop it. However, and of course, there'd be the people who would be like, don't go. However, somehow, all of the administrations end up in the middle where we don't actually do anything to stop them from getting a nuclear bomb, assuming they're building one at face value, which I don't know, at this point, nobody even thinks they are anymore because of the route they've taken. But if you are going to stop them, then go in and stop them. Or if you aren't going to stop them, then don't do anything. Become isolationist. And for some reason, they take this middle route of, yeah, we think the best is just to infinitely bomb them forever of all time. While our U.S. soldiers there in the Middle East are pretty much under threat. Again, infinitely under all time. How is that the solution? How did you end up picking the worst solution? And I disagree with one more than the other. I think most people do. Most people either disagree with the war or they disagree with being isolationist. But almost nobody in America thinks we should just sit there and bomb them every day. Nobody. Not a single person. If I gave them one of the three options to go, yeah, we should just bomb them every day for the next 40 years. That'll solve the problem. Nobody. How did you end up in the worst solution? But they do it on purpose because just like the big pharma industry, a sick person makes way more money than a dead person and a healthy person. And so an infinite war makes them way more money than a war that ends or a war that we don't partake in. It's the exact same concept.
Sure. I think termination criteria is always a political decision. However, I assess that Iran will continue to be a challenge moving forward, so we have to be thoughtful.
Will they put tolls on the strait?
I don't know, sir. That's a decision that's a hypothetical and will depend on what happens
It's not
in the
hypothetical.
future.
We've got a blockade to stop them.
We do, sir. That's
General,
putting
I want you
economic
to look
pressure
me in
on
the eye.
Iran.
I'm not asking you for, I'm not trying to get you in trouble. I know your advice to the president is private, but this is serious as 4 heart attacks and a stroke. Now, what happens if we come home and end the blockade to the world?
Sir, Iran has the potential to continue to be a threat, and we will need to prepare military.
Kennedy is very pro-war, boys. Just heads up, he's very pro-war.
They told the strait.
It's a lot of things I don't like
Sir,
about him.
that's a hypothetical question, and I don't know the answer to that.
Oh, it's not hypothetical. We come home. It's not going to be hypothetical. You know that, General, and I do too. And I appreciate your discretion, but we're down to it. We need some hard answers and some straight talk. What'll happen, Pete?
Senator, I would agree with the chairman, but the likely outcome is they would try to impose their will on the waterways in ways that the world would not like. Call it a toll, call it a fee, call it an exchange, call it control. They would do something that they would try to hold it at issue. Yes, sir.
Would they try to commence development again of a nuclear warhead?
They were. He's going to correct him, but there's no official intelligence from a American source that says they were working on a weapon. Just heads up. There's some from a certain foreign intelligence agency, none from an American one.
Part of the reason President Trump had to have the courage to do what he did after Midnight Hammer is that they didn't give up their ambitions even though their nuclear sites had been obliterated. So this is a regime hell-bent on nuclear ambitions, and
Guys,
President Trump's been willing to go after them.
We need straight answers. Do we have the ability to destroy whatever is underneath Pickaxe Mountain?
Senator, a lot of our capabilities are classified, but if anybody in the world can reach anything on God's green earth, it's the United States military, the most powerful military in the world. It's all about options and trade-offs.
I've been hearing a lot about this Pickaxe Mountain, and I don't know what it is. I guess it's a nuclear facility underneath. What I don't understand, and so Trump just threatened it today. It's not the only time he's threatened it. So Pickaxe Mountain, known in Iran as, I'm not reading that out, is a highly fortified underground Iranian nuclear facility located in central Iran. It has become a primary flashpoint following recent U.S. threats and military action. So my question is this. If our goal, again, is to stop them from building a nuclear weapon, right, at face value, why wouldn't we just bomb it? That's supposed to be the goal. Wouldn't that be the first place you threat? Wouldn't it work like this? Listen, we know you're building a nuclear weapon. We want you to stop. They say we're not going to stop. Then you initiate the bombs. Why would you bomb anything other than this mountain? If this mountain is the next big housing for nuclear material, why wouldn't you just bomb it? I don't understand. It doesn't make any sense. Like, everything they do is so illogical to me. I'm just confused. Befuzzled? Confused. I don't get it. All of a sudden, you're telling me there's this mountain where they have a nuclear facility, and you've known about it this whole time, and you're, quote, threatening to blow it up? Just blow it up. Like, what? I don't get it. It doesn't make any sense.
I'm going to take a little extra time because others got it, Madam Chair. I won't abuse it. Secretary, are shrimpers farmers?
Absolutely, yes. There are farmers of the sea.
Are oyster harvesters farmers?
Yes. In this USDA,
yes. Are they
yes.
having to compete with other countries who grow oysters and shrimp in a ditch and shoot them full of antibiotics?
100% yes.
And if you eat too much of that foreign shrimp and oysters, you'll grow an extra ear, won't you?
I'm not sure about that, but I know it is not good. And I also know we import 90% of our shrimp.
The shrimp and the oysters from
I've
abroad?
never heard about this. I don't know what this
Well,
is.
it goes much larger than that. Why are we importing so much from abroad, which goes to the president's trade agenda?
I'm in big trouble.
Yes, you are.
Guys, look, we need straight answers now. We're down to it.
Yeah, and he's paid
Senator
for,
Merkley.
but he's the most mentally. It's sad. It really is sad. Again, the politicians are all paid for. It is what it is. He's the most mentally competent out of most senators. It's so fucking stupid.
Secretary Rollins, I appreciate your partnership on addressing several issues in Oregon. And
we have a younger guy talking.
I sent you information about a couple others, and you responded. Appreciate it. We'll follow up on the research service. We'll follow up on the concern about in-kind contributions serving as a match. But I particularly need your help on the fire funding. And I know you've indicated how important that is. Where we stand now is that the Senate seems hamstrung, that they're seeking to have OMB give them a number on that. Various sources say the number is probably about $5 billion. I don't really care if it's 4.5 or 5 or 5.5. The point is that folks here, senators, are asking for a number from OMB in order to go forward. And when we're looking at the fires right now in my home state's the epicenter of the highest risk in the country. So can we get your help to get that number and move this process?
Yes, absolutely. It is of paramount importance, especially in the middle of fire season right now.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And Chairman Kane, I think there was a sense that the president expressed at the start of the war that the U.S. military power was overwhelming and would likely produce unconditional surrender quickly by Iran.
Yes, that is fair to say. I think most of us got that vibe. Most people who were not blinded by emotion just based on who's president listened to him, heard him say, and just in general, you'd think that as an American, right? You're told your entire life the U.S. military is OP. So this would be like Faker going up against bronze players. And, you think going in that this would be easy. Just at face value. And unfortunately, of course, now we're many months in. Gas prices are about to soar. They were soaring before. And now we have dead soldiers.
And that obviously hasn't happened. Was it your opinion as well? Did you feel like our military force could produce an unconditional surrender in quick order?
Good question.
Sir, I won't, with due respect, I won't share my private advice to the president. What I will assure you and the American people is I always speak truth to power and offer an accurate assessment of what my assessment is of both our readiness, the plans and activities that might be undertaken, the associated risks, and the secondary and tertiary considerations that go with those opinions or options.
Thank you. So you feel like
this General Kane guy, I've never actually sat down and listened to him speak. I know he's played a large role, I believe, when it comes to negotiations. I know with Ukraine and Russia. I don't know how much with Iran. He is, at minimum, he speaks well. He seems also very, I don't know if I don't know what word to use without, giving it a negative or positive connotation, but he seems intelligent, I guess is the best word to use, and at least calm, which is not, again, you don't see that quite often. You don't see people as well informed as he is. And all of the different senators from Democrats to Republicans seem to respect him.
Risk that the Iran could possibly close the strait, despite the destruction of their navy, that the possibility of assassinating their political leaders and their military leaders could produce a strengthened hardline and weaken the reformers, that Iran would have the ability to sustain its ability to attack sites throughout the Middle East, that the initial requirements of the war could surely deplete our basically high-end standoff munitions, that this could affect our relations with our allies. All those were factors well considered in this decision to go to war.
Sir, as I said, I won't opine on or share my private
loves that
advice
word,
to
though.
the
Yeah, I'm not
president.
asking about your vice president. I'm asking you, did you understand these issues or have these become revelations as the wars unfolded?
Sir, my job is to understand all of the considerations that go into the carefully considered use of military power.
Let me ask you this then.
Yes, sir.
So I understand why you don't want to respond, but these are all massive risks that seem to be poorly weighed in the beginning of this misadventure. Currently, there are reports that we have hit the Bonzi desalination plant that provides water to about 20 villages or about 10,000 people, and we also damaged the desalination plant at Ketchum Island.
This is true.
Were these deliberate
These are true.
Targets by the United States?
Yes, they were.
So I'm not aware of those as being particular targets, nor am
I
I
heard they were
aware
hit.
of those reports, and I'll have to go back and get back to you on that.
If you could, I'd appreciate that. You are aware that infrastructure that civilians rely on to survive is not generally considered legitimate military targets?
Sure.
The bombings for those facilities, I believe, happened during his speech. I want to say it was during his speech on Thursday or the day before. That did happen. We bombed the two facilities, the desalination facilities and bridges.
As you know, we have a robust
I've seen videos of the bridge destroyed.
Process which considers a target, that goes through a system that looks at a variety of considerations to include what you're alluding to around both purely civilian or dual-use targets.
Great.
I have trust and confidence in CENTCOM that they're looking at the range of those things on a daily basis.
It sounds like you are assuring us that we will, the United States, not target, even in retaliatory sense, infrastructure that's
There's reports we also
generally
hit a school.
considered to be primarily
They're not going to tell us that
for
stuff.
civilian survival.
Of course not.
So, as I mentioned, we have a robust process, and we have the most professional military force.
It'd just
in
be
the world
nice
that
to have
follows
you
the
say
law.
yes, because this is
That follows the
international law.
Yes,
If
sir.
you
It follows
understand
the
the
law.
international law.
I do, sir. I've got a
Okay.
lot of lawyers that help me understand it.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
And will you get back to us on that
Yes, sir.
question of
Of
whether we
course.
targeted the
Yes, sir.
desalination plants, and
Of
if so, why? My time's up, but I do want to express encouragement to look at what the negotiators have put forward, or advisors, as to whether a 10-day break could facilitate returning to dialogue that might find a path forward.
Senator Hyde-Smith.
Thank you, Madam Chairman, and I want to thank all three of you for being here today. I am going to direct my first question to Secretary Rollins, and again, I want to commend you publicly for the outstanding job you're doing at
Everybody
USDA.
seems to love this.
You know, this is my world. As former Ag Commissioner, I hear from a lot of producers in Mississippi, and they are so pleased with your performance, and that is just truly genuine right there. But I'm pleased to see the administration's supplemental request as for ag producers, because before I comment on that, I just want the entire committee and administration to take note of the tremendous timber losses as well in places like Mississippi due to winter storms and the tornadoes we've had there. It is significant, and I certainly look forward to working with you with the concerns of the timber sector. Regarding this supplemental, you know, our row crop producers, as you've mentioned in your opening remarks, they are truly...
I don't have much to say about the ag stuff, guys. I don't really care, to be honest with you. I don't care. Great. You know, onshore lumber process, fine. Make sure shit's not on fire, great. I know about the Canada wildfires. It happens every year. I don't know why anyone's ever surprised. It's wildfire season during the summertime. Happens in California, happens in Canada. It happens every single year. Why anyone's surprised, I have no idea.
A serious situation. I've talked to multi-generation farmers back home who are the best of the best that did not even plant this year because they could not make the numbers work. And producers in Mississippi and nationwide, you know, we continue to face these economic conditions. They're not going away anytime immediately or soon, but we've seen the commodity prices drop and the input costs just go through the roof. If we want the next generation to stay on the land, Congress, we're going to have to take this opportunity to provide this critical market assistance for our farmers and enact policies that build structural demands for commodities like the Buy American Cotton Act, that year-round E15, all of which would make the paths better, more favorable for these producers going forward. But I appreciate the administration's effort to this date, including the Farmer Bridge Assistance Program that was so valuable, implementation of the updated Farm Safety Net with Working Families Tax Cut Act, and now the supplemental
she also is chafing
before Congress. But will you speak to why it's critical for Congress to act swiftly to pass this supplemental and the need for us to pass legislation that drives the demand for farmers' products?
Yes, thank you, Senator, for your kind words. A couple of really important points. Number one, as we work to open the markets around the world, and we're seeing, as I mentioned in my opening remarks, just extraordinary numbers. That $50 billion agricultural deficit we inherited a year and a half ago is now down into the 20-ish billion. We expect it to go down significantly this year. Again, the highest price we've seen in over a year in corn is today, and soybeans is today, et cetera. Your point, Senator, about opening up the domestic markets is really important, whether that's E15, renewable fuel standards. Obviously, the RVOs came out, which is a reason for the drive up in some of our row crop prices in the last month, which is really important. But also, as I mentioned, bringing the cost of inputs down. We are expanding fertilizer, the largest amount.
Okay, I was waiting for them to bring it up. So a lot of what there's parts of this that make sense. There's other parts that are specifically designed for the glyphosate production increase in America. So what's been going on is there were large concerns about this herbicide called glyphosate that has some health issues, cancer stuff. And the U.S., what most people wanted was for it to get banned as used as a herbicide. Well, unfortunately, glyphosate mostly comes from China and is mostly used in, well, not just farming, but it's used to make bombs. So it's important. We need it, especially right now. China, in retaliation for all the trade stuff going on, has banned the exportation of glyphosate to the U.S. We got most of our glyphosate from them. So what ended up happening is they blocked the ban on glyphosate. They're encouraging its use. And as a matter of fact, a lot of, I don't know about a lot, but some of the money in this bill that they're talking about right now is actually meant for them to buy the glyphosate in order to drive the price of it down so that the military can also buy it. That's kind of what's going on. I think, I don't know if she'll say that word intentionally. When she says fertilizer, that's what they're talking about. Well, it's one of the things you're talking about.
We're going to break ground in Louisiana in 2 weeks, reshoring, bringing back to America real fertilizer production. And then also the long term, we got to figure out how
like ammonia facility or something.
Doing these
also
supplementals
used to
and these
make
bridge
bombs.
Payments, which we have to do for these farmers to survive.
You know, you
but
can
what
use
we're
fertilizer
seeing is just survival
to make a bomb. But most of our bomb-making chemicals came from China and ironically Russia, or coincidentally Russia. So yeah, it's been a problem, and they need to onshore production. How do you do that? You get Americans to eat it. Basically, we're like the fucking pigs.
And we're seeing a lot of the input companies, equipment, seed, fertilizer, make record profit. So we've got to be able to dig into that as well. But as of today, ensuring that we can keep these farmers farming while we're opening the markets, while we're bringing down the cost of inputs, is paramount for a secure America. And that's why this is so important today.
Thank you very, very much for that. And Secretary Hegseth, thank you for being here and the amazing job that you're doing. I have the utmost respect for you, your team, and what you're accomplishing. But I as well am committed to ensuring
you know, what have we accomplished? Okay, so before the war, there was no nuclear bomb for Iran. During the war, there was no nuclear bomb for Iran. Even after you stopped bombing them for a little bit, no nuclear bomb for Iran. And now we're back to bombing them, no nuclear bomb for what has been accomplished? I don't understand. Besides gas prices going up and down and now back up again. Like what?
Our warfighters have
all
the tools necessary to accomplish the mission in Iran and whatever else that they need to defend our nation's interest. The supplemental request is in line with that goal. And I'd like to shift my conversation right now quickly to shipbuilding, which is extremely important to the state of Mississippi and our country's ability to protect itself. The President's FY 2027 budget requests funding for one DDG 51, while Navy leaders have said their goal remains to build 2 destroyers a year. And at the same time, the department is exploring options for using allied shipyards and overseas fabrication in future naval construction, which raises questions about the long-term role of the American naval industrial base or shifting work away from domestic shipbuilders. Shipyards like Ingalls in Mississippi, which I would love to invite you down to there. It is amazing, and the thousands of suppliers and small businesses.
Listen, this woman is being a shill, but at least she's being a shill for the people of her own state. Respect.
They support. They need the confidence that the work will be there so they can invest in new facilities, hire and train skilled workers, and expand capacity that we will need in the future. Will you help or talk to us about the department's short and long-term shipbuilding plan and how it gives
you
industry
can hear the
confidence to invest?
Chairman bashing on the.
You just made the case for this generational investment because of the underinvestment, Senator, in shipbuilding in the previous administration. Just static, flat, bureaucratic, slow. We're having to revitalize that industry. And one DDG is a reflection of a backlog in capability. So as we ramp on more capacity, those numbers of DDGs, the workhorse of our Navy, will go up as we grow that force.
The Senator's time has expired.
Thank you.
Senator Coons.
Thank you, Chairman Collins, Ranking Member Murray. Thank you, Secretary Hegseth, Secretary Rollins, General Kane, for your service. I want to start with the things I know we agree on. We agree that we should honor our fallen, that we should stop and remember them and console and comfort their families, that we should be mindful of the hundreds of Americans who've been wounded and injured in this war in Iran. General Kane, your observations about how our adversaries are aligning more and more closely. Technology is accelerating, and cheap and lethal and easily accessible drones pose greater and greater risks to our troops, our homeland, and our security. And Secretary Hegseth, that we need to protect our troops wherever our president directs them, that we need to protect our partners and allies, and that the dangerous radical Iranian regime should never possess a nuclear weapon. I think we agree on all of these core basic points. Where I think we may disagree is on this supplemental and on the strategic choices made to achieve some of these core goals. We're 143 days into a war with Iran, a war of choice that we started with Israel, but did not include, consult, or incorporate our core allies, our NATO allies, our regional allies, the American.
Oh, I mean, we tried. They just didn't care. They don't want to join, which is fine. I mean, it's fine and it's not fine. Yeah, I get why they didn't. I don't even think they really could if they wanted to be honest with you. A lot of them sent warships and like the UK and France sent carriers. I don't know if the UK has carriers. I think they sent a carrier. I know French did, and they just kind of parked them off the coast and didn't do anything. Like they just were AFK based. You know, they showed up just to say they showed up, and they didn't do anything. So you know, I don't know. Europe's going to be Europe. They're just not reliable. It is what it is.
American people and Congress, and the reason to consult.
And Japan really can't. You know, they don't really have the capabilities. They just now started rearming. And that really doesn't leave anybody else. Sadly. Well, Australia's going to get involved. I mean, they should have.
Include our allies and Congress and the American people is so that when the costs and the length of a war extend beyond what we'd initially imagined, the American people and their representatives in Congress understand that sacrifice and can continue to support it. I think your first strategic mistake was to not consult the American people in Congress and make a clear case for the reasons behind this war. There have been many, lots offered, and I think our military has executed on the core missions.
Guys, okay, fucking hell, if you're only listening, bro, this guy's got like a weird, I don't know if it's a shadow or what, but he has something weird under his ear.
Attack ballistic missile sites, sink the Blue Water Navy, attack their.
I'm not saying he is, but I will say it makes it look like a mask. I don't think he is. Let me just say that much. He's not wearing a mask, but this like mark under his ear or something makes it look like
constrain their
it is
capacity.
a mask.
But I frankly think it was entirely foreseeable that Iran would close the Strait of Hormuz, would use cheap, lethal, widely available Shahed drones that they've led the world in manufacturing to attack our bases, our troops, our partners and allies, and impose real costs. Higher costs in fertilizer, in fuel, higher costs for the world, and tragically, increasingly higher human costs for us and for our troops. So 2 questions, 2 general lines of questioning, if I could. Mr. Secretary, your question says, without these supplemental funds, we will face critical shortfalls that threaten our ability to pay our service members and sustain global operations without disruption. You've been asked repeatedly, there's $75 billion appropriated but unobligated. Can we really not avoid critical short-term shortfalls? What does that mean about the budget management within the department in terms of unexpected and unbudgeted wars? First, Operation Southern Spear, and then Operation Epic Fury.
I would just note, I was sort of updated, 95% of that One Big Beautiful Bill funding will be allocated by the end of September in accordance with congressional intent. So these are things we said we would spend, and we told you we would spend them on, and we plan to spend them on those things by the end of September. So this is a new...
Well, I just looked it up for fun. So this is where most of our money goes. Social Security takes up 23%. Jesus. Net interest on the debt, 14 to 15%. National defense, 13%, which is quite a lot. I'm not saying I agree or disagree with the amount, but that is a lot. Medicare, 14%. Income, security, and health. So that would include Medicaid, SNAP, food stamps, and housing. Total spent on health insurance for ages 65 plus and disabled. The 3 biggest areas we know that there is fraud is in the healthcare area, so Medicare and Medicaid. We know that SNAP and food stamps have also been largely taken advantage of by who knows how much. And then we know in the defense, so the Pentagon spending, in military, a lot of that, they can't even pass an audit because they don't know where the money's going. Can you imagine how much money would save if we properly went through all that stuff and figured out where it all was going and made sure it was properly being spent? God, we'd be such a rich-ass country.
Request based on new realities of a world we face, stepping up to meet that moment.
And forgive me, Mr. Secretary, but that's news to me, that $75 billion will be out the door, allocated and spent by September. And I was simply questioning how we have ships running out of fuel in the open seas and planes being grounded and
I didn't say ships were running out of fuel in open seas or planes were grounded. I'm saying we have to make trade-offs.
Maintenance accounts are
everything our troops need on the battlefield, they're getting in spades and beyond. It's ultimately looking into the future. Can we invest above and beyond that, the types of munitions fast enough as we up?
Well, shit, I'll give you the answer. We're 41, almost probably $42 trillion in debt, so no, we can't. Sorry. Unfortunately, you're going to have to dig through your budget and figure out why the fuck you can't pass an audit. And then, when you pass an audit, then we can talk about the future. But unfortunately, you're like a wild animal that we just keep giving tons of money to, and we have no idea where it's going.
Upgrade and modernize our force. That's what's at issue here in this $1.5 trillion, this supplemental, and any other additional funding that comes.
Two quite different things: a $1.5 trillion base budget request and a now $76
billion. 1.5 base and then an extra fucking billion on top or some shit. I don't even know how much they're asking for.
$1 billion supplemental. And I was simply going to point to
billion?
a Department of Homeland Security is sitting on nearly $100 billion in unobligated funds. You haven't requested reimbursement for the millions of, frankly, billions of dollars the department has spent on law enforcement. Second,
we requested reimbursement and are getting a substantial reimbursement from DHS.
That's good news, and that's news to me. And frankly, as we reflect on the service and sacrifice of those who put their lives on the line of this war, one of the things I've raised over and over and over is the ways in which this administration has dragged its feet on partnering with Ukraine in order to deploy the best-in-class sensors, detectors, and counter-drone systems to protect everything from Dover Air Force Base to our bases in the region, to our troops, to our partners. I want to see you focus on accelerating the defense of our troops and our nation, focus on accelerating the defense of our troops and this region, and a strategy that has a real chance at succeeding at the goals that we agree on. Because the strategy followed, I think, has no credible likelihood of success.
What does that have to do with Ukraine? Did he not just like pitch a speech about Ukraine and then just like talked about defending ourselves? What just happened?
Senator Britt.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Appreciate all of you being here today. So since the beginning of the Putin's aggression into Ukraine, this body has passed 5 supplemental bills funding different portions of that war. You mentioned in your opening, Mr. Secretary, about not getting those munitions that had come through this body quick enough to Ukraine, and also being able to replenish those here at home. Can you talk a little bit more about that? Because I remember the previous administration dragging its feet after this body gave them directive as to what to do. So can you shed a little bit more light as to what you were talking about in your opening?
Well, thank you for that question. Sometimes we forget recent history, which under the Biden administration, there were 5 supplemental requests for Ukraine, which almost every member of this body voted for to send rapidly in a bipartisan fashion for something that this committee and the administration deemed to be urgent. President Trump may take a different view, but that was the view of the Biden administration.
And real quick, wouldn't you say it would be urgent to make sure that our men and women in uniform right now have everything that they need?
I would argue providing for American men and women as opposed to Ukrainian men and women is a higher priority for the United States Senate. So 5.
If only you had that exact same view when it came to the King of Jordan and fucking Israel, bro. If only you carried that exact same energy. I think it's more important we have money for men and women in America, but also let's send $10 billion to the Middle East, to foreign leaders. What is the, like, it's just so crazy. It's so absurd. I can't fathom it. Like, what's the logic there? How do you like look at yourself in the mirror and don't laugh at yourself? How do you even take anything you say seriously? How does anyone around you take anything you say seriously when you consistently just lie? There's so much hypocrisy 24/7 in everything you say. No money to Ukraine, but let's give money to Iran. No money to Iran, but let's give money to Ukraine. Like, you know, what is the point? Like, all of these people are the exact same. This guy doesn't want any money to Ukraine soldiers, but let's give money to the IDF. Like, the Democrats on the board don't want any money going to Iran, but they want all the money going to Ukraine. Like, it just doesn't make any sense.
Supplementals that went to Ukraine, as good as that cause may be, why is that righteous to do? But funding troops in harm's way right now, given the threat and what they're undertaking, this is a partisan exercise.
I mean, you're like 50% of the way there. Again, why is it important that we don't give money to Ukraine, the Ukrainian men and women, the soldiers, but we give money to the IDF? We give money to the Jordanians. Like, it's all the same logic, bro. What is the point?
And it's hypocrisy. And I appreciate you pointing it out.
Wow,
real quick,
you. Way to go. Way to point it out, buddy.
Secretary, question for you.
Good job.
When the Russia-Ukraine war started, we saw obviously costs go up around the world. In particular, in that region, we know that supplying of fertilizer, was tremendous. We also know Ukraine was top 5 when it came to wheat and corn and other things that we utilize, across the globe. It's my recollection that fertilizer went up about 55%. Obviously, if we were able to create stability there in the region and have peace, it would follow that then prices would likely go down over time within the agriculture world as well. Is that fair?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay,
No,
and when we're looking at the Ukraine
not usually how it
and
works.
Russia war and trying to end Putin's aggression, trying to bring peace, General Kane, if we were to cut off the funding that Russia was getting,
you can't. It's not going to happen.
Follow that that would be a driver that could possibly lead Putin to the table?
Sarah,
No.
yes, and their economy is
Thank you.
struggling now.
Thank you. And we
Doesn't
also know, I saw reports this weekend
Irrelevant.
that it is said that possibly Russia and China, which I know you can't comment on right now, but are actually helping Iran.
Yes.
Whether it is targeting our troops, funding, and other mechanisms.
China makes the drones right now. They actually have turned some of their industrial base towards making the drones, the Shahed drones, or a version of them. They then ship those drones into Iran. We blew up bridges because of it. True story. Didn't that, whether it made a difference, kind of slowed some things down. At the same time, they are also using the satellites of Russia and China to bomb our service people. We are in a war right now with China and Russia. That's just how it is. That is the truth. We are currently in a war with China and Russia. It's barely a proxy war. I would argue that since these soldiers have died, it is no longer a proxy war. It is a war. It is a war directly with them. Yep. And we did the same in Ukraine to the Russians. We did the exact same thing. I mean, we use our satellites to bomb the Russians, so they see it as okay too.
So a thing that we could all agree that ending that would be helpful. I want to just echo Senator Kennedy's comments that I think the sooner we can get this bill on the floor and passed, it'd be huge with regards to Russian sanctions. Also want to just talk briefly about the dysfunction of this body. So my question is for you, Mr. Secretary, and you, General Kane. I would have to think that our adversaries, and I believe that we need to fully fund our military, making sure that our warfighter is the best ready, trained, and equipped across the planet. I think we have an obligation and a duty to not only meet the needs of the moment, but to also look at what's to come and be preparing for that. You talked about an insurance policy. You talk about what we need to do. Now is the time to do those things. But I would have to think that the dysfunction of this body, whether it's the full shutdown, a partial shutdown, not being able to pass NDAA, not being able to pass FISA, I would have to think that our adversaries look at that and
I wonder why she's so desperate to get the NDAA bill passed. I wonder why she's getting all excited about it. I wonder why, guys. I think I have an idea.
Gives them a little bit more credence as to what they're doing abroad. Can either one of you comment on that?
Thank you, Senator. That's why
we are an hour and 30 minutes in. Not a single person has talked about Section 219.
I've said, and I will continue to say, that the inability to properly fund this department, the Department of War, is probably the single greatest threat our nation faces. Whether or not we will make a generational investment in not just winning the wars currently, but deterring the wars of the future, given the step change in technology of this moment and the underfunding of the previous administration. You didn't mention continuing resolutions, which is a whole nother way our department has foolishly budgeted. So I appreciate you highlighting that. It's very true.
Yeah, and General Kane, question for you. Obviously, a shutdown is a terrible thing for the Department of War and the men and women that you oversee. But I would assume that
here's what we should shut down the department until they can pass an audit. The end. The end. There's nothing more. Until they can pass an audit, shut them down. The end. I believe President Trump said we would pass an audit at least one time before he leaves office. He ain't got that much time left. So when? Shut it down until they pass an audit. The end. Stop sending money overseas. The end, dude.
A CR is not much better. Can you comment on the effects of that?
Man, the department's done a lot of work to bind together founders, funders, and fighters as we look to the challenges that we face in the future. And a CR would hurt badly the effort to properly arm the joint force.
I hope we can work together to do the right thing. Thanks. The people are depending on it.
Yeah, she's foaming at the mouth to get the Israel bill passed. That's what's going on here. And it's ironic that she's wearing a cross around her neck at the same time.
Senator Schatz.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Secretaries and General, for being here. I want to start.
Sounded like she sounded so desperate to get that bill passed as if they are currently holding her kids hostage, which maybe they are.
Paying my respects to First Lieutenant Tyler Feehan of Eva Beach, Hawaii, who was among those killed in Jordan this weekend while serving our country. His courage, selfless dedication, and unwavering commitment to duty reflect the very best of our armed forces. We extend our deepest condolences to his family, his loved ones, his fellow service members, and remain forever grateful for his sacrifice. Secretary, about 190,000 people in the state of Hawaii, believe it or not, voted for Donald John Trump. And I know a lot of them, and I represent all of them. And one of the reasons that they were enthusiastic about Donald Trump, and you, Mr. Secretary.
No new wars.
Was they thought
no new wars.
That we were going to have a new foreign policy. And that I think, I'm paraphrasing, but I think you characterized yourself as a reformed neocon or some such thing. And people were pretty thrilled about the idea that we were going to, that America first in their mind meant that we were going to not do this kind of adventurism. And so
There we go, back to Iran nuclear weapon. Get ready, boys.
And I want to walk through the sort of stated objectives of this war at the outset. Regime change. We now have a younger and more radical regime. Depleting, eliminating their conventional missile capability. It's true that we've depleted their conventional missile capability. It's also true that anything the Department of War sets out to do, it usually succeeds at. So the question is not, do we kick ass? It's when do we decide to use kinetic engagement to extend our power across the globe. And it's clear that Iran still retains enough conventional missile capability to attack our bases and our interests in the region.
Yeah, true.
Now, it's true that the Blue Water Navy is destroyed. It's also true, and you know this, that the IRGC has something that you may not call a navy, but it's got capabilities to touch us with drones and missiles and lay mines in the Strait of Hormuz.
Sure.
Preventing their nuclear capability. It's also true that if you bomb the crap out of a place, they're going to have less capabilities by the end of it. But it's also true that we have not eliminated their nuclear capability. And whatever
apparently not. Apparently they always have.
Actually pales in comparison to the, and I'll say it, the Obama nuclear deal, which we did without having to put our people.
I mean, I don't know if that's true. Who the fuck knows? You know, they both tout it like it's, you know, like one deal is better than another. I don't think so. I don't really see how, but it's kind of irrelevant now, to be honest. Again, it just comes down to the, okay, fine, you think they're building a nuclear weapon? Dude, just imagine what the response would have been anywhere before Bill, the Clintons. We would have nuked Iran, to be honest with you. Any other president before Bill probably would have nuked Iran. Maybe not. Maybe not. But pretty much every president from 1945 to 1975 would have nuked Iran. Just imagine the words of any other country on the verge of building nuclear weapons. Listen to how this sounds. You know, if we're in a conflict, when we're World War II conflict with Japan, Japan is on the verge of building a nuclear weapon. Are you fucking kidding me? We would have sunk the entire place. Like, there would be no more Japan. So I'm just not convinced that Iran is nuclear weapons, because it's clear that even this administration isn't convinced. It's clear that the previous administration wasn't convinced, or the one before that, or the one before that. None of it makes sense. At least the Bushes invaded for the scam. You know, that's way more believable. A land invasion is a lot more sellable to me, that there might be weapons of mass destruction, than us just flying planes overhead, dropping a bomb or two, and then saying, yeah, you know what? We stopped it this week, but next week they're probably going to start back up again. Nothing is less believable than what we're doing right now. Nothing is less believable. For fun, I believe it was Nixon. I can't remember. I want to say it's Nixon during the Vietnam War. Apparently, he would get really drunk, and he would just wake up in the middle of the night and order his Secretary of Defense to bomb, to nuke Vietnam. And the poor guy would call up the vice president and be like, dude, the president just told me to nuke Vietnam. And you just let him, sober up, and it'll be fine. And again, it's the stark contrast between every president's attitude towards a true enemy. Oh, true enemy. An enemy, perceived enemy. From those time periods to now. Every little convenience we would talk about dropping a nuke. But apparently our greatest enemy of all time has a nuclear weapon, is building a nuke, and our strategy to defeating him and stopping them is to just drop some bombs every once in a while. Not any big bombs, but some bombs. And is to blockade them. It doesn't make any sense to me. And this guy, I don't know. We'll see.
In harm's way. And then the last objective, which has become a new objective, is open up the Strait of Hormuz. But the Strait of Hormuz was open before this war started. And so you tell my constituents why this war is going so well.
I think you did accurately portray me as a reformed neocon, and members of our generation in Iraq and Afghanistan watched administrations on both sides try to project some remaking of a society in the image of America that spent thousands of lives. I mean, in Iraq, 15, I don't know the exact number, but tens of thousands.
You're trying, bro, are you trying to say we went to Iraq to rebuild their society in the image of the U.S.? I don't think that's why we said we went into Iraq. I don't believe. Listen, I wasn't around during that time, but I don't think that was the narrative. Pretty sure it wasn't.
Thousands between Iraq and Afghanistan, men and women lost. President Trump said we're not fighting stupid wars like that again. And he hasn't. That's why we haven't been trying to remake Iranian society, but simply in a realist, America first way.
The U.S. invaded Iraq in 2003 primarily because the Bush administration asserted that the regime of Saddam Hussein possessed weapons of mass destruction. It had nothing to do with what he just said. Zero to do with what he just said. You fucking bastard. Oh my God.
Ensure they never have a path to a nuclear bomb, full stop. And he has said as a candidate, and he said as a private...
So this is the exact same thing. It's the exact same thing. You just take the L, buddy. Just take the L. Why not you just go, ha, got you. I stayed in neocon the whole time. Get fucked, idiot. Like, dude.
Citizen. Iran can never have a nuclear weapon because radical Islamists with nuclear weapon will wield it over our head.
We invaded Iraq because apparently it had weapons of mass destruction. We call you guys neocons because you invaded and you lied. You say you're reformed. We're bombing Iran because you say they have a nuclear weapon, which is otherwise known as a weapon of mass destruction. We're probably going to land and invade them at some point, but apparently you're reformed. Okay. Sure, buddy. Whatever you say. Nice lie.
So President Trump ran on fighting wars differently, and
we'll be bombing them in perpetuity.
And he was very clear as a candidate that Iran can never have a nuclear capability.
Yeah,
so I think he's directly on.
Congrats. That's the exact same thing the neocons said under the Bush administration. Congratulations. You're a spitting image. You're a mirror. You're the exact same. You're synonymous. Nobody is conflating you any differently.
Get a question back in here. I think we're understanding the limits of air power here.
Bro, none of these senators have like the knowledge or the follow through or the goal. Like, I just don't understand. He just lied. You said, hey, you're supposed to be a reformed neocon. Why are we fighting this war? He literally just described what was a neocon before and how he's a neocon now, and you can't call him out on it. It's so retarded.
Because we're basically at a stalemate. Someone says the Strait of Hormuz is closed, and we say, well, we got a naval blockade, and we're just going to see who blinks first. And the truth is, in order to sort of change the balance here, change the equation here, some kind of escalation would have to be considered. And if you're taking that off the table, then we are in a holding pattern. And I go back to the original 5 objectives, and none of them have been met. Some of them have changed, but none of them have been met.
Yeah, it's called
and
moving
with
the
gas at now
goalposts.
402, with the Brent crude hit 90 today, up from 70 2 weeks ago. Gas up
It'll keep
about
going
a
up.
buck
It'll keep
nationwide,
going
about
up.
$1.50 in the state
It'll
of Hawaii.
keep going up.
People want to know, why are we even doing this?
Oh, here we go. The neocon reason.
Senator Fisher.
Go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Secretary Hegseth, I appreciated your perspective on the focus on the 4-year war in comparison to a 4-month war with a nuclear adversary. And I thought it was very well said. Thank you.
What? Who? Huh? Who is the nuclear adversary? Oh, is she trying to say Iraq? Oh my God, bro.
If we want to support Ukraine going forward, I think the best way to do that is to dramatically increase munition production. And we need more interceptors. We have to be able to move forward. So,
you know who really needs the interceptors? Yeah, it's the Foreign Intelligence Agency. They really need them. That's what she's advocating for.
So do our allies and our friends. And let me emphasize that this supplemental does that.
Yes,
this is what we're talking about.
That is true. In one of the provisions, it directly says about ensuring that money goes to Israel so that they can buy more interceptors. This is true. She's not wrong.
Out here today, it's one of the things that we're talking about. As a member,
notice how shy they are. They have no problem being like, guys, we really need to increase our production for Ukraine and other allies. Wink, wink.
For the Armed Services Committee, one of my priorities for over 5 years now has been on munition production. General Kane, what happens if Congress doesn't fund this $21 billion request for additional munitions?
Well, ma'am, there's been a lot of work done by the department to partner with the private sector. I'll acknowledge some of the efforts that the private sector is doing to utilize their own capital to facilitate factories. If we don't, as a team, figure out how to properly fund the department, then we're not going to get the munitions, and there's going to be a lack of shared risk between the federal government and the private sector. And I think we're at a point in time in our history where we need to partner. We need to find an ability.
At the point where I broke Edge. I gotta stop using this browser. This browser fucking crashes every single stream. It is so cringe. I'll give it a second. I'll have to take out a section here. 231. Of course. I was going to leave a little comment at the bottom just for fun, but unfortunately I ended up crashing.
Ability to share risk. We need to be better sellers and buyers on both sides in order to make sure that the young all-volunteer force has the weapons that they need before they are asked to go do something.
What you're saying is we need to be prepared as a country.
Yes, ma'am, and I hope, as I said in my opening statement, that we will find a way to make sure that we seize this moment in this time in history to ensure that we've got the right mix of munitions, high, low, scale, autonomous.
What's your plan B if the supplemental doesn't pass? What's plan B?
Ma'am, we will always figure things out. We will always have contingencies. We will always determine a way to create multiple simultaneous dilemmas for adversaries around the world in order to create time for us to do the work that the Congress and the department needs to do together.
Holy shit, guys. Listen, I'm not going to lie. That is probably the best answer I've ever heard from a person who's testifying. Motherfucker, normally they sit there and go, oh, well, if we don't pass this bill, we're all gonna fucking die. So you better pass the bill. And it's in his best interest to get the bill passed. For him to sit there and just be like, listen, even if you don't pass the bill, We're going to do the best we can. We're going to get the job done. We'll figure it out. What the fuck? Bless this guy. I can see why people like him.
Number of times in our posture hearings on armed services and also in classified briefings, we don't have a lot of time, do we, sir?
No, ma'am. That's why I said, if not now, then when? And if not us, then who? And I truly believe we're at one of those moments in history where we have a choice to make, just given what I see on the next couple ridge lines. And I encourage us to move forward.
Thank you. Mr. Secretary, how would this request scale munitions production and be able to accelerate our delivery times?
In the past, previous administrations would sort of send the same amount of dollars into trying to encourage companies to build another factory and add an additional shift. What this munition request does is fulfills deals that our department have cut with these companies. First, multi-year procurement, where these companies that make SM-3s or Patriots or THAADs or Tomahawks.
It was a priority for our NDAA a couple years ago.
Absolutely. And you have provided that authority, multi-year procurement. And now those companies are spending $4 billion, $5 billion, $3 billion on building their own new factories that then produce 2x, 3x, or 4x the amount of munitions than they did in the past.
These guys sound like crypto billionaires.
So actually, in this budget, which is $21 billion, as you mentioned, it saves $18 billion over the FIDIP on munitions because we're buying munitions at today's cost and not at 5 or 7 years from now when.
Yo, kill your bro. Yeah, it's actually really good we spend a lot of money now because we're going to print a lot of money, which will drive the value of the dollar down. And that'll be great because inflation, we intentionally cause inflation because it devalues the dollar. Yeah, thumbs up. And that makes things cheaper. Bro, it's fucking insane logic. I fucking hate these people, dude.
And we will also get them.
I hate to interrupt, but we're running out of time. We also have the request includes $4.1 billion for our space-based capabilities, and that includes the AMTI and our space data network capabilities.
I don't know what
and
AMTI
these
is, guys.
really underpin the long-range kill chains and allow our warfighters to detect and also then to track the airborne threats. So, Mr. Secretary, what's the risk to the joint force if we delay these programs?
Let's see what are the two options and why she's bringing that up. A, does this woman truly understand what space-based weapons are made of and can do? Or B, did she just read an ad because she is paid to? I wonder.
Until FY28 or beyond.
Senator, not being able to see, not being able to sense before an adversary is able to engage one of our capabilities, and which means falling behind in the domain of space, which means falling behind at every other domain.
Great, thank you. And General Kane, do you have anything to add on that about why Congress can't wait? I think you make such an excellent case on that.
No, ma'am. I'll stick with the words that I offered.
Secretary Rollins, thank you for your focus on year-round sale of B-15, for taking care of the horrible disasters we've had in Nebraska. We appreciate you coming out. And
Let's leave a comment. Okay. A, neocons equal invade / start war in Middle East over fake WMDs. Pete Hegseth plus Trump started war in Middle East over fake weapons in Middle East.
a couple things more, of course, that I want to bring to your attention, but thank you very much. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Senator Van Hollen.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Secretary Rollins, the Beltsville Agricultural Research Center in Maryland is one of the crown jewels of agricultural research in the United States. And my question is simple. Can we find some time to get together in the coming weeks to discuss the situation there?
Absolutely, yes.
Thank you, Madam Secretary.
Yes.
Let me turn to the Iran war. We recently lost 3 American heroes.
That brings the death toll for American soldiers to 18. One is still missing. Hundreds have been injured. That's on top of the civilian death toll throughout the region that now stands at several thousand, including the over 150 people killed in the bombing of an elementary school in Minab in Iran. Meanwhile, the Strait of Hormuz is closed. Gas prices today in the United States again spiked above $4 a gallon. And that will also continue to push up costs for groceries and other things that families buy. Secretary Hegseth, you said in your opening statement the best way to ensure peace is to prepare for war, and I agree with you about deterrence. I would also submit that the best way to ensure peace is not to start wars, because wars are a lot easier to start than they are to end. General Kane, I heard your testimony saying Iran will continue to be a challenge. And I think it's pretty clear that that is, in fact, the case. And General, in order for you to develop a military strategy to accomplish a particular objective, you obviously need to know what those objectives are, right?
No clear objective.
Yes, sir. It all starts with what is the political objective, and from that we derive military objectives that support whatever that end state.
And as you say, that is a political objective.
Yes, sir.
So, Mr. Secretary, you've talked a lot about winning. You've talked about winning in your testimony today. You've talked about winning throughout the Iran war, and we all like winning. But I think the American people deserve a definition of what it means to win in Iran, because this war has dragged out for a lot longer than certainly the President of the United States indicated. Indeed, the President said on March 24th, and I'm quoting, "We've won this war. This war has been won." Do you know what the President meant by that back in March?
Well, Senator, I would just note that militarily, I mean, Iran has been completely overmatched and crushed from the beginning, militarily. Their capabilities are nowhere near ours. I would take issue with your characterization that we started this war. Iran started this war 47 years ago, and they've killed thousands of Americans, including our brothers on the battlefield in Iraq. Iran has been targeting us for a long time.
Secretary,
we didn't start. They did.
Let me just ask you this, since you said that what the President meant by his statement on March 24th, I think that we had sort of defeated Iran militarily. But that is not the entire objective of this war. I don't think there was ever a question about whether the United States, with its superior military, could destroy a lot of Iranian assets, military assets, or other assets. That was never a question. But when most people think of winning the war, they think that that means the war is going to come to an end because we've won.
Yep.
And the President said back in March that we'd won. So
true, he did say that.
I guess my question to you is, how are we going to define winning? I hear back in March, you said about the Iranians, and I quote, "Whether they will have a ceremony in Tehran Square and surrender, that's up to them." So my question, Mr. Secretary, reopening the Strait of Hormuz is necessary in order for us to win, right? That's just a simple yes or no question.
You asked me what the overarching objective is, and I would say ensuring Iran never has a nuclear weapon. That's been clear from the President from day one. That's why Midnight Hammer was undertaken, to obliterate their nuclear sites. That's why we're watching their nuclear sites. That's why that was a part of negotiations, ensuring that the next generation of Americans don't have to deal with an Iran that wields a nuclear
an infinite war, right? That's what you're saying, infinite war. Infinite war, because they are infinitely trying to build a nuclear weapon. And so the only solution you have is to infinitely be at war.
Mr. Secretary, let me just say this. You said after Midnight Hammer, and I'm quoting, "Our bombing campaign obliterated Iran's ability to create nuclear weapons," unquote. Clearly, that is not the case based on your testimony today. It's also a fact that the DNI, Tulsi Gabbard, testified in front of the Intelligence Committee that it was our assessment that Iran did not intend to restart its nuclear program. The President of the United States, just about a week ago, said Iran has committed not to develop a nuclear weapon, which of course is a commitment they've made for many years. We need to enforce that. That's what we are doing under the JCPOA. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Senator Rounds.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I had the opportunity to serve as governor of South Dakota for 8 years. During that time, we deployed over 5,000 young men and women into harm's way, National Guard members from South Dakota. I attended their departure ceremonies. I attended their welcome home ceremonies, and I attended 31 funerals. One of the main reasons that I decided to come to Washington was because I never wanted to see young men and women going into harm's way again if they didn't have the best leadership, the best training, and the best equipment possible. Now, this body, the Senate, with regard to the Iranian war, to date, this body has chosen not to impose war power limitations on the president, nor have we pushed for the withdrawal of forces from the theater.
True.
I think the decision to take out Iran's nuclear program and their missile production capacity was the right one. And it should have been done a long time ago.
Hey, so
But
is it done or what?
When the president did that,
when is it done?
We also assumed
Tomorrow?
that there would be risk involved. And when you put young men and women in harm's way, you want to do everything you can to make sure that you get in, you get the job done, and you get out. I think that's what we talk about.
What the fuck are you on about?
Now, today, it has been since February that we now have the Iranians that are shooting back. We haven't finished the job. I think the question that the American people have is when the difficult decision comes, because I don't think diplomacy is necessarily working, and I think most people would say we've got more issues in front of us before this is complete. For General Kane, when the time comes and the president is asking for the decisions about the options available to him to appropriately end this war favorable to the United States and to take care of this problem permanently, are you prepared to provide him with the appropriate options that he is going to have to make a decision to choose from?
Sir, I always provide the president with appropriate options and risks that he can choose from.
And those options that he will have to choose from will cost money. And that's our role here. Because if we don't do it right, young men and women die.
Yes.
The question to you, sir, is this.
What the hell are you saying?
You've offered a supplemental request, and I recognize that it's part of a $1.5 trillion overall.
1.5 trillion.
But is this enough money to get the job done? Or is this going to just get us far enough until we've got to come back in here? And in the meantime, we
Bro, what is this guy talking about? Is this enough money to get the... What is he saying? Like, does he think... bro, I'm so fucking lost as to what this guy's logic is. If we just throw enough money at the problem, will it go away? Like, what exactly do you think this $90 billion is buying and creating within 60 days that we don't already have, that all of the sudden ends this? What is this guy smoking, bro?
very well not have these young men and women out of harm's way yet? That's my question.
Sir, I want to first start with recognizing your 31 fallen from home and mourn their losses. We carefully consider the use of military force every single day. And the most...
Hey, yo, I just want to fucking talk about some of those kids. It was an 18-year-old and a 24-year-old. And, like, sure, if they're adults, don't get me wrong, they know the risk, they're going in. Why the fuck were they in a position where they could have been killed? I mean, I don't know. Does it really make sense? Well, when you're desperate, you put the young ones on the front lines because you don't have anyone else. But are you telling me? I mean, I don't know what their jobs are. I don't know. Maybe I shouldn't finish this sentence, but I'm trying to understand the logic of putting an 18-year-old that close that they can be killed like that. What experience do they have that is that valuable? Well, I don't know, guys. I don't know. It just doesn't make sense to me. And that guy's accepting of it to me is astonishing. And most of these people accepting such a young person dying to me is just crazy.
The important thing that I do is make sure that the president and the other leaders understand the risks and carefully consider the Dover test, a place you've been many times. And that is, are we willing to go to Dover, as we will tomorrow, to bring back the fallen? I can't answer the question on what it will cost because the enemy has a vote. What I'll commit to you as this plays out, we'll make sure that the Congress is informed. But because I'm not quite sure how this is going to play out yet, it would be unwise for me to comment on what a future cost may or may not be, depending on what they choose.
In general, you will provide a plan to Congress at whatever the appropriate classification level is on what resources are required to execute what the president's intent will be to successfully end this conflict.
Sure, I will always make sure that, as we have, that we're moving data as appropriate to Congress. Yes, sir.
Okay. Let me come back in just in terms of follow-up on this a little bit. Some have criticized Operation Epic Fury for expending many of our munition stockpiles. Were our munitions, the inventories of those munitions, and the capacity of our munitions industrial base sufficient for great power competition with near-peer adversaries like China prior to Operation Epic Fury? Secretary Hegseth?
Senator, as I laid out, because of the previous administration, funding shortfalls, munitions transferred to Ukraine and not replaced, and then ignoring threats, it built a lot of risk that requires this kind of investment. So you'd look at the $67 billion alongside the remainder for 1.5. That's the kind of generational investment that not just matches peer adversaries but far surpasses them, which I think is your expectation, having been to those ceremonies, which is mine, having been to them and going to them, is that we give everything possible to the warfighter that they deserve.
Senator Heinrich.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
This guy may have been the
General
worst guy.
Kane, our military is the best in the world, and so I don't think any of us should be surprised with the technical execution of its attacks on the Iranian regime's forces. They've been flawless.
Really?
What I don't want us to confuse is flawless technical execution with long-term strategic success. And I think one objective that is relatively modest, because it puts us back to where we were when we started this, but nonetheless is incredibly important as a critical objective, is that I want to see the strait open again, and I want to see it open where shippers can transit that strait without being extorted by Iran. And I would love to see that before our commercial and other oil reserves are exhausted because of the impacts that will then have on the pocketbooks of American families. Is that a reasonable objective, and is it one that you share?
So I'll defer on the military objectives to the political leaders who set them. What I can tell you is U.S. Central Command is working hard to ensure that Iran cannot terrorize the southern flank down there, and they're doing so every single day and night. And you and the rest of the Senate would be proud of the actions and activities for the forces that are down there. The character of war is changing, though, like I said in my opening statement. And so there's a variety of mixed munitions that are down there coming at the commercial traffic. But I would like to be clear and unambiguous with you and the rest of the Senate and the Iranian forces. They have a choice to make, and they should knock it off.
I have no doubt I would be incredibly proud of the actions of our service members in this conflict. And I hope we can achieve that kind of strategic objection on the timeline that obviously avoids the worst impacts of the limitations of commercial oil supplies right now. Secretary Rollins, I want to shift gears. One of the things that you mentioned in your opening statement that we appear to agree on is that there is simply too much consolidation in a number of agricultural sectors. You mentioned fertilizer and seeds, but in particular, I want to talk about the meatpacking industry because in a previous Trump administration bailout, about $90 million went to the corrupt Brazilian meatpacker JBS. I think that Congress really intended those funds to go to American ranchers. So I want to ask you, what are you going to do this time around to ensure that the proposed relief dollars that we're talking about today, that those funds go to American producers instead of to the very foreign corporations who have created the business model where ranchers bear the risk and meat packers reap the profits?
Well, that's right. And we're obviously at a 75-year herd low. There are a lot of reasons for that, but working to solve for that. Number one, the Department of Justice is investigating right now significantly the but especially the 2 foreign-owned. Number two, USDA is investing significant funds in deconsolidating packing and supporting mid-size and smaller packers around the country. I know that wasn't your question, but just to answer the bigger question, which is a really important one. But from my perspective, what the Trump USDA 2.0 has been hyper-focused on small and mid-sized farmers and ranchers. We have worked really hard on the $40 billion that has already moved through.
I really don't have
to
too
make
much
sure
to
that
add.
that goes to where it is intended.
If what this chick has been saying this entire time is true, I don't really have that much hate to say about it. I hate bailouts. I think the farming industry has been kind of really taken over by big Monsanto, which I'd like to see get broken up. But, it's not. It's just, unfortunately, it'll never happen. The entire farming industry it's basically operating on a fucking socialist system, and it's terrible. It's the reason why the farmers are getting pinched as hard as possible. And honestly, food could be even cheaper than it is. Food is surprisingly cheap, but it's mostly subsidized by the government, which means it's by you, the taxpayer. It could be a lot cheaper. It just is what it is. Nothing these guys are doing is going to do anything. You need to break up the monopolies and get out of a socialist system. Like you said, the bailouts, they just permanently bail out farmers because the poor bastards are victims of Monsanto,
which is not multinational foreign agricultural corporations.
I very much support the efforts of the Department of Justice. I think there is a very important antitrust case to be made here. At the same time, I've watched as your department has rescinded 3 important rules that were put in place to protect farmers and ranchers from unfair practices by the large meat packers. Those rules were supported by the American Farm Bureau and the National Farmers Union. Explain that discrepancy to me.
Which rules? I'm not tracking.
The inclusive competition and market integrity rule, the transparency in poultry grower contracting and tournaments rule, and the poultry grower payment systems and capital improvement systems rules.
The packers and stockyards, I think, is what you're talking about. So we are executing an additional review on that. I think that the point is very well made, that sometimes that inures to the benefit of the larger corporations. As I have begun to make a larger case and a more vigorous case in the importance of deconsolidation, we'll be taking a second look at that. And I would love your input.
And I would very much support deconsolidation. Thank you.
Senator Hegseth.
Thank you, Chair Collins. Thank you all for being here today. In my brief time in the Senate, I've learned that we're really good at embracing our oversight role, but oftentimes there are many people who don't want to do their jobs in terms of funding the government on time and actually doing the work that we're supposed to do as appropriators. And
how much money do you need, you greedy fuck? That's a real nice suit with a fucking great pocket hanky. You look great, buddy. How much more money do you need? Seriously. You are living off the most wealthy government ever in the history of the world. How much more money could you possibly need?
I'm not for blank checks. I believe everybody should be accountable, but I also believe we should do our job. And now We have a supplemental funding request that we're discussing today. We're waiting on getting an NDAA done. Despite the chair's best efforts to facilitate forward an appropriations process, there's question of whether that will get done on time in September. And my question, start with you, Secretary Hegseth, just to talk a little bit about what the consequences of failure, what this really means to not do this on time. Because I've talked to defense contractors. I as a former executive,
I'm sure you have,
member of an executive branch, I know that the legislative branch often thinks, well, no matter when we get this done, we just wave a magic wand, we pass the bill, and it all magically happens. But that's not how it happens. It takes time for people to, you have businesses out there you're going to rely on to build these weapon systems who don't know if they're going to get paid. They can't plan. They can't staff up. They can't order the equipment. They can't do any of these things unless they know that the money's actually coming. So what are the consequences of not just doing this, but doing it on time in a timely manner?
What are the consequences for my generation when we have to pay the fucking $50 trillion debt? What about those consequences? Fuck you, bastard. What the fuck?
Senator, thank you. I think the consequences of dysfunction in funding this department put at risk a...
You don't even know where your money is going. You don't even know. You haven't passed an audit ever. Brother, what?
I think a first time in 25, 30-year reform effort to change how we do business as a department. We're going to war with the Pentagon bureaucracy because the bureaucracy existed to defend just a few systems and processes and companies. We need all of American industry coming into our department. And if you talk to industry, they've never seen anything like what our deputy secretary and our department are doing right now to run fast at speed. But it counts on this body and others funding this department in a way that can fulfill the deals that we're cutting that saves the taxpayer tens of billions of dollars and gets weapons to warfighters years and years faster than we ever have in the past. So without the funding, we put at issue all those deals, all the reforms, all the ways in which we're changing our department to move at the speed of business. So it's not just dollars and cents. It's demand, it's predictability, it's showing industry we will meet you at this moment. And if we can't get past our dysfunction to fund the warfighter, we put a lot of that at issue.
General Kane, same question from a military point of view, not knowing if, when the funding's going to come and us not doing our job on time, what are the consequences to the warfighter?
Sure, I'll just add to the Secretary's comments, you know, it'll manifest itself in a range of ways, readiness, capability, munitions, training, cyber, unmanned autonomy. This is why I'm really asking for the Congress's help here, for us to look forward at the next couple ridge lines and to be thoughtful about the moves that we make here. And I understand the environment that we're operating in right now. But whatever structure the legislature and the executive branch determine, we need predictable capital, my investor hat on from my previous life, so that we can go out and procure the capabilities that we need before we need them. And those things are changing. You know, the advancement of small drones and things like that, we're going to have to make sure that we stay very close with the Congress.
Yeah, so you want a blank check every single time so that you can have infinite amounts of money for whatever is going, which means infinitely printing. Like, it's just not, what you're asking for is just simply not logical.
So that as technology develops at a speed that we haven't seen before, that we're staying very close and partnering with the Congress to enable us to adaptively use that capital with the appropriators' buy-in so that we're arming the force properly.
Well, I can tell you in interacting with the people who are that want to build these new generation of weapon systems, because I think you would agree that we've learned a lot from Ukraine. We've learned a lot from this conflict about how we were underprepared from the standpoint and from a defense standpoint, and that we have to continue to modernize our system, the weapon systems. I think it's very important that we not only do our job, but we do it on time, because you cannot run a Department of Defense, run businesses who are supplying these things without knowing if you're actually going to get funded. Because the whole supply chain, the workforce, everything gets held up when we don't get our jobs done on time.
So, yes, sir. I used to work in the private sector for a company that was headquartered.
It's insane to me that this guy and a couple of these other senators pretend that $1.5 trillion budget is just like fine. I mean, that's a number that most people can't even fathom. It's just not possible. I can't. You can't. There's just no way. That amount of money doesn't even really exist. It's mostly digital. It's fucking impossible to actually have an existence. It's just not possible. And yet they're just like, man, we really need $1.5 trillion. Why doesn't everyone just vote yes for this $1.5 trillion blank check? This is ridiculous. We need to pass the $1.5 trillion bill right now. Like, what planet are you living on, buddy? But of course, they all get a piece of the $1.5 trillion debt, while the rest of us get fucking shafted in the asshole.
In Piqua, Ohio, and those leaders told me your entire job, Dan Kane, is to deliver quality parts, or in this case, weapons, on time with shorter lead times and lower costs. And part of why I'm so passionate about this is because I see how this capital, if the Congress chooses to give it to us, will manifest itself in real combat capability, lethality, and survivability for our joint force.
Thank you, and thank you, Secretary Rollins, for coming to Ohio and meeting with all of our ag leaders.
It was great.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Senator Gillibrand.
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman. Secretary Hegseth, you're requesting billions of dollars in supplemental funding for a war that you said would last for weeks, and that the president has no plan or ability to end. At the same time, this still unauthorized and extremely unpopular war has caused gas, diesel, fertilizer, and other essentials that New Yorkers and our farmers need across the country, and has become much more expensive. So how do I go back to New York, and what would you say to them who are seeing their health care bills rise because massive cuts to Medicaid? They've seen their grocery and gas bills rise, and this unpopular and unauthorized war abroad is a higher priority to this administration than their ability to feed their families and provide health care to their loved ones who are sick.
Again, another question for this guy who has nothing to do with any. What do you want him to do about it?
Well, Senator, you're talking about political trade-offs, and our job is to deliver for the United States military and the President of the United States.
And we
look at the cost of
it has a little bit
Iran,
to do with it,
and
but
we
not
want to prevent that for future generations. And that requires funding and supplementals and this budget and next generation capabilities. And that's why we're here today to request some of that to ensure we can ensure that Iran never gets a nuclear weapon.
So you're essentially saying you're asking for literally $1.5 trillion for a war that President Trump said he already won. You're asking for $1.5 trillion, unlimited money for bombs, but insufficient money in the American people for their health care, their food, their housing, and our farmers, Secretary Rollins.
Pass an audit, then I'm okay with signing the check.
We are not funding the losses from
she can't even
emergencies
speak.
that
You're
have happened.
a fucking libtard. Your brain is rotted.
In blue states, particularly when
That's
we
not
had
true.
frost.
That's
false,
not true.
False, you're not funding it. But back to you, Secretary Hegseth.
And I would like to respond to the fertilizer and the gas.
Have your chance.
I don't,
Secretary
Hegseth,
what
no reason
you are asking for unlimited money for bombs when people can't feed their families. And I don't know how this administration intends to defend those decisions to the American people.
Over 50% of all of our budget goes to fucking this retard nonsense socialism, healthcare, dog shit, fucking propaganda. It doesn't make any sense. Shut the fuck up. Okay, I got 14% going to the military ridiculously. I've got another fucking 50% going to your nonsense. How is it that you don't have enough money? You also want a blank check to just give to your constituents. I don't want to hear it from you either.
People.
Not unlimited bombs, Senator. I'm asking for the right bombs at the right time to ensure we can deter our adversaries into the future. And that's how this is a generational investment. And it was the previous administration that didn't fund this department.
The reason why they are so upset with you and this administration is because the words you have used in the past don't add up. About Iran specifically, you said that we had obliterated, quote unquote, Iran's ability to create nuclear weapons. The president made the same claim. Yet 8 months later, in February of 2026, the president launched an act of war claiming Iran was within 2 weeks of having a weapon. So when you say two very different things, the American people don't know who to believe or what to believe. They just know they can't afford their health care, they can't afford their food, they can't afford housing, and our farmers are continuing to suffer. So, which is true? Was it obliterated or wasn't it? What's the status?
The nuclear sites under Midnight Hammer were obliterated, but Iranians foolishly continued to attempt to pursue nuclear capabilities, which is why we destroyed their defense industrial base and so many of the other capabilities to ensure they can't get to a nuclear weapon. See, we're staying laser focused on the objective, and you're trying to make campaign commercials.
No, we're
and
not.
That's fine.
So listen to this. You also say that you made the missile.
Okay, so GG, like you're done. If they're trying to continue to build it, what is your next step? Is it just to keep bombing? Why doesn't any of these people ask that question? None of them, all of them ask the first question, which tends to be fine, and then none of them can follow up with the answer, because if you notice, and again, if you're just listening, all of these people have just written down talking points, and they don't actually respond to what's being said after. They have no brain, no concept of being able to, I don't want to call it a debate, but actually engage in a conversation. It's so ridiculous.
Missile program, quote,
Running
destroyed
the country, by the way.
and made combat ineffective. Quote, Iran's entire ballistic missile production capacity, every company that builds every component of those missiles has been functionally defeated and destroyed, and that the missile program, existing stockpiles were depleted and decimated, almost completely ineffective. So why are there missiles left to hit Jordan and result in the loss of life of our brave men and women?
As we stated from the beginning, the Iranian defense industrial base is
probably for the same reason there's fucking vagrants running around in New York stabbing people nonstop. Like,
effectively gone, but they do have underground facilities.
I mean, look, I care way more about the soldiers' lives than I do the people who vote for the vagrants to run around. But let's be honest, there's way more people dying in New York due to socialist policies than dying in the war. It's just the truth. If we're just gonna play politics, let's just be honest. There's way more people dying from open borders and vagrants in New York than there is for the war stuff. It's just insane that that's the truth, but it is the truth. So if we're really gonna look at who's the shittier fucking politician here, unfortunately, it's you, libtard white woman.
Facilities, because they're the world's leading state sponsor of terrorism, and they've spent 47 years trying to hide their missiles under mountains, just like their nuclear capabilities, because they would like to get a nuclear weapon to wield it against us.
Of the war to believe, because it's either over or it's not over. It's within 2 weeks or it's not 2 weeks. We have no missiles or we have missiles, and that consternation is why so many New Yorkers are perplexed, stressed out, and find this war to be incredibly unpopular.
Listen, I don't think the New Yorkians, whatever, I don't think they care. I'm going to be entirely honest with you. Of all the states, for some reason, I don't think they care. A lot of them just love the fucking socialism nonsense going on there. I don't think they're even breaking a sweat over this stuff. Just a guess.
Popular because they don't understand the choices that the president's making. They don't agree with those choices. Secretary Rollins. So you have cut over 160,000 New Yorkers have been kicked off SNAP. What do you have against
should have been more
hardworking New Yorkers, children who need SNAP, and seniors who need SNAP?
Well, first of all, diesel is down under Biden versus today.
What did I read earlier? It was something like 25% goes to fucking welfare. It's so ridiculous. I don't even want to hear it.
480. Gas is down from Biden today.
It's 100 million people are living on welfare. It's a third of Americans are getting welfare in one shape or form. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. Cut it all. I don't want to hear it. Listen, the war with Iran is retarded, socialism is retarded. So, dude, I know I often fall in some weird ostracized, a geometric shape far outside the Venn diagram, but socialism is retarded. Fucking the war in Iran is retarded. I don't want to hear it. I don't care about either. Kill yourselves.
484 to 386
in Minecraft
today.
or whatever.
Fertilizer is down 56% from Biden highs.
Prices
so this
are
narrative
higher than
that
when you
are
took
using,
office.
well,
all of those prices are higher than when you took office. So you are not
that
making
is
life
not
better
true.
Isn't it?
for
That
New
is
York
not-
Oh, it's insane. Let's just say both of them are true. Prices are up whatever percentage since she took office, but are still down from when Biden was in office. Holy shit. Fucking kill
True,
me,
Senator.
man.
And let me tell you what New York is stressed out about is the fact that your state is taking prime farmland and turning it into solar farms. That is absolutely inexcusable.
The New York farmers, you will see
I have visited
that
the New York
smart
farmers
farms do
two
both.
times.
Do
Two
both.
times in
Senator's
upstate
time
New York.
has expired.
Thank
Senator
you.
Bozeman.
I am my own
Thank you,
man,
Madam
ladies
Chair,
and
very
gentlemen.
much.
I am my
And,
own
thank all of
man.
you all for
I can
your service to our country and
call out the bullshit on both sides. I don't give a fuck.
national security. And I think it's easy for the public to understand how you, Mr. Hegseth, are, your contribution in the position you're in general, Kane, the position you're in. But some don't understand the position that our Secretary of Agriculture's in. I gave a presentation a couple of years ago when Senator Rubio, then Senator...
Almost every... Listen, it just comes down to this. Every single department in the U.S. can lose funding, and with smarter people in charge and better people in charge, get 10 times more done than what's currently being done. Without a doubt. Ultimately, that's just the truth. It's been done before, it can be done again, and that's just the truth. That's what most Americans my age and younger know and believe. That's ultimately what it is. 1.5 trillion for the Pentagon is ridiculous. Ridiculous. They haven't passed an audit. Doesn't make any sense. It's illogical. There's no reason for it to operate like that. Over a third of America on welfare is retarded. Don't make any sense. Don't care.
Rubio was over here in the middle of it. I was talking about agriculture. He punched me and said, John, always tell them that food security is national security. Now, Senator Kyle.
Everything is national security to you people. Everything. Driving is a national security. Food is a national security. Internet usage is everything is a national security risk to you guys. Every single president that has come through these doors for the past fucking 40 years have said, yeah, we need to take control of this because it's a national security risk. Energy is a national security. AI is a national security. Everything has been national security. Everything.
Who's head of the Intelligence Committee now is taking his place. He's doing the same thing. So again, what we're talking about today is very, very important to our country. Right now, we're in a generational crisis. Our banks, our economists tell us that if we don't start doing things differently, and the good news is the administration is doing things differently, we're going to lose 20-25% of our farmers in the next 2 or 3 years. I visit almost daily with farmers about the difficult farm economy, wildfires, flooding, all the things we've talked about today. My only concern is that the supplemental is very much appreciated. After hearing the testimony today and the concerns, we might need to look at bumping that up a little bit. But again, we'll discuss that later. The supplemental, though, the supplemental assistance is important in keeping our farmers going, but it's not the answer. Will you just reiterate again what we're trying to do?
It's all just bailouts. Any money to the farmers is a bailout.
A bump, an edge.
None of it
to
is
keep
sustainable.
going until the programs that we're putting in place now kick in. You mentioned fertilizer. You mentioned E15. You mentioned value adding our products, both overseas, finding new markets. Can you talk a little bit about that, the importance of not only the supplemental, but again,
I'm a little tired. I'm going to skip through her.
White House's leader is so.
Sorry, guys. Don't care about the
put
action.
into the record that just outlines requesting relief to sustain America's farmers and ranchers. Secretary Hegseth, General Kane, one of the things that we're concerned about is that in the military construction aspect of things, we're really not asking for that in the supplemental. I know that the success of Operation Epic Fury, particularly for our missile interceptors and short-range aircraft, really basing was a large part of that. Can you tell us how we can help you, again, try and plus up our military construction in some way so that we're not going to be faced with this in the future, trying to double up?
Senator, I think
ask for more money.
Congress finding the ability to meet up to close to our the totality of 1.5 trillion means we're not making the kind of trade-offs this department has made now for decades. Those are the types of things, construction, maintenance, that fall off when trade-offs occur.
1.5 trillion, bro.
So
pass an audit. Pass an audit.
What this
Please.
budget does, first of all, it fully funds the UPA list, which is the unfunded priority list of PACOM, a priority theater, and then it gets at every single substandard barrack that we have across the department. So we're funding the military construction in a way that we've never done before to get out of the hole that we've had for a while.
Very good. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Senator Bozeman. To the very patient Senator Baldwin.
Thank you, Madam Chair and Madam Vice Chair. And thank you for appearing before our committee today. To many I represent and to me, this supplemental request is another example of this administration's misplaced priorities. Instead of spending tens of $billions more for
those who are only listening, it's an old lady who's wearing the worst wig I've ever seen.
President's war of choice in Iran, that both houses of Congress, I may add, have voted to end absent explicit authorization by Congress. We should be focusing on the needs of American families. We could invest this money to accelerate new cures and treatments for cancer and Alzheimer's. We could use it to help more families with rising home energy costs. We could use this funding to help more families afford quality childcare. We could use this funding to help more kids get free school lunch. We could use this funding to restore health care for working families. We could use this funding to support our public schools and special education. This is a war of choice, and every dollar spent on this war,
every war
is a dollar not spent helping families afford housing, health care, groceries, child care at home, investing in the opportunities for the American people. First, I want to express my condolences and my respect for the 17 American service members killed in this war since February.
Sorry, I'm not laughing at that. That's terrible. I'm laughing at the fact that every single senator has said a different amount. So the official amount, guys, is 20. She just said 17. I heard someone else say like 47 or some shit.
Including 3 over the past few days. Their lives are the price this country has paid for this war. The deadliest day for U.S. forces was on March 1st, when an Iranian drone struck an Army facility at Port Shuaibah, Kuwait, killing 6 soldiers and injuring more than 30 others, including soldiers from Wisconsin. Soldiers from the unit stationed at Port Shuaibah told reporters that the facility did not have adequate air defense capabilities. These soldiers and their families believed they were sent into harm's way without the defenses they...
I wonder where we're sending most of our air defense capabilities. To 2 other places that neither of these politicians will shut the fuck up about.
Needed. Secretary Hegseth, what would you say to those soldiers and their families?
First of all, that we honor and recognize their sacrifice and what they've given. I've been in touch with at least one of those families on a regular basis and understand the pain of losing a loved one is unfathomable, which is why we greeted them at Dover, and we'll greet those again tomorrow. I would say in talking to Admiral Cooper, the CENTCOM commander, before all of this was undertaken, maximizing defensive capabilities, mostly by moving as many people as possible off the X, which we did in historic fashion, moving almost 90% of Americans in theaters off of where they could be a target, first of all.
So
bunkers that they would move into, early warning.
On Fort Schweba.
Ultimately,
and I will quote from the Washington Post article of July 12th. Schweba, this is a quote, Schweba did not have any of the systems that would take down the one-way attack Shahed drones, and initial security assessments found that the base was not adequately protected, end quote. Soldiers at Port Schweba have also been quoted in news reports saying that requests for additional medical and drone defense systems were denied prior to the conflict with Iran beginning. Why were those requests denied, Secretary?
Yeah, why were they requests? Where did those air defense
I would
systems
confer
go?
with Admiral
What
Cooper,
happened?
but there were
Where'd they
not
go?
a single drone or defense request denied at any level that I'm aware of. We did everything we could to move heaven and earth in every single location to protect every single American we possibly could.
An article from July 12th, Washington Post also quoted a soldier saying that the unit's request for an Eagles drone defense system was denied because of lack of assets. That's an end quote. U.S. Army Central has conducted an investigation into that attack. Do you commit to releasing the findings of that investigation publicly, yes or no?
We'll get you the status of that. I would argue if it was a resource constraint, that's precisely why we're having this hearing today, to speed up systems to the battlefield, to warfighters as fast as humanly possible. It's been too slow in the past. It needs to be faster. The reforms we're undertaking will do that.
The findings of that investigation publicly, yes or no?
I will work with Admiral Cooper to make sure it's handled properly. Yes, Senator.
Thank you. Secretary Hegseth, I traveled to Walter Reed Military Hospital and met with soldiers who were injured in that attack. What they told me confirmed what other soldiers have said publicly, that most of these soldiers injured in the attack did not receive proper medical care in Kuwait, in Germany, or during their initial days back in the U.S. The U.S. military has been fighting wars in the Middle East for 25 years. Why was proper medical care not immediately available to these injured soldiers, and why were they not immediately screened for traumatic brain injuries?
I'm not taking issue with the characterization of individual soldiers, but I would argue that every effort was made to provide every level of medical care possible, understanding how CENTCOM operates.
The senator's time has expired, and there is a vote on Senator Capito.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you all for being here. Thank you for your service. I want to begin because the last time that I saw you, Secretary Hegseth and General Kane, was at the Pentagon when you honored Andrew Wolf, who was attacked here in D.C. in November, and then the honor that you have given to Sarah Beckstrom and her family, who lost her life that day as well. I know that you've been in constant contact with Andrew and his family, and you also know that the great faith that they have in the Lord above is what's really brought them to the point where they are now. So let's keep them all in his prayer. I am interested in Senator Baldwin's question because I do have a soldier from West Virginia who is making a very similar complaint. So whatever follow-up we can do, I would like to do that. I'd also like to recognize the 3 most recent service member that we lost, because we talk about them as service members and soldiers, but I haven't heard them say their name, and they're so young.
Yeah, they were ridiculously young. All right, guys, I think I'm done. I'm exhausted.
Here today, Secretary Hegseth, the American people either didn't want this war from the start or were deeply skeptical of this war.
I'll cover this guy,
because they have seen this country make the same mistake over and over again in wars in the Middle East, and that is to create either unrealistic or open-ended objectives.
Yes.
You said in March that the United States was, quote, on plan to defeat, destroy, and disable all of Iran's meaningful military capabilities at a pace that the world has never seen before. Obviously, as we've discussed here today, that objective has not been achieved and is not going to be achieved. Iran is more adept than even at the start of the war at hiding their capabilities or repairing after damage we have done. There's an open report that when it comes to their missile sites along the Strait of Hormuz, 30 of 33 are still operational.
I wouldn't believe all the open reports, Senator.
But I've also heard you say in this hearing that the objectives now seem to be more limited than they were at the outset of the war, that this is about reopening the strait and this is about dismantling their nuclear capability. And the president, of course, has said himself that he thinks Iran has a right to a missile program. So my question is pretty simple. Is it correct that it is no longer a war objective to destroy all of their military capacities? This is what the president has said. Have our goals been simplified to reopening the strait and to getting into a negotiation over a nuclear program? Now, I don't think you have a realistic plan to do either of those things, but I think it's important for us to know what we're funding. Are the objectives much more limited today than they were when you made that statement in March?
So I think the objectives have been consistent and clear from the beginning. And I would contrast it to North Korea, where a conventional buildup was used to hide a nuclear capability that eventually evolved to a point where it couldn't be contested. And what Iran continued to do, even after Midnight Hammer, was try to build that conventional capability to dare anyone to stop them from pursuing nuclear weapons. So getting...
All right. I mean, I kind of just fucking... The horse is mush at this point, but, you know, the rhetoric is the exact same, and it doesn't make any sense. Iran was building a nuclear weapon. We bombed them. They're still building a nuclear weapon. We bombed them. They still build a nuclear weapon. We bombed them. I mean, there's just an endless cycle here. Everyone keeps asking him, what's the next plan? You know, it's just illogical. It doesn't make any sense. And he just keeps repeating the same thing.
After their conventional capabilities, missile launchers, defense industrial base, their Navy was all part of it, ensuring they can't blackmail us into pursuing a nuclear capability. Laser focused on Iran will never have a nuclear capability. That's the promise the president has made and that he will keep in every way.
I think it's important. It is still a war objective, either through military action or through a diplomatic agreement, to destroy and disable all of Iran's meaningful military capacities, including their missile program.
As far as all, when we talked about that from the podium at the outset of this, we were talking about their defense industrial base. And if you look at the metrics of their ability to make more, that it's been overwhelmingly destroyed. Not everything, but overwhelmingly. Now, do they have missiles in underground bunkers because they're a terror state? Sure they do.
Whatever. All right. That's it. I'm done. I can't take any more, boys. I'm tired, and I am annoyed, and don't think we're getting anything new out of this. So, if you're still here and listening, God bless you. Thank you for tuning in. I hope you have a wonderful morning, night, evening, afternoon. I think that's all of them. And tomorrow is the vote for the NDAA bill to pass the House. So we will talk about that. I've got some news here to catch up on. I know I was supposed to cover the UK today. I've just been watching. There's been a lot of information as to Andy Burnham's new cabinet, and I've kind of been collecting it. So once it's done, once the changes are done, and he's gotten all his rhetoric out, and he's got all his cabinet in place, we'll talk about it. I don't know if it'll be Friday or Monday. It'll probably be Monday. Friday, I kind of want to do an Odyssey review. I went and saw it over the weekend, and it would be nice to kind of check out after the NDAA stuff. So I think that's what I'll do, and that'll be the lineup. But we'll see. Maybe, you know, things happen throughout the week, war stuff, politics stuff. You never know. There's a lot going on in the world. It's been a really busy month. Parliament in Congress for most country goes into recess, which will probably slow things down a little bit. But yeah, overall, hey, thanks guys. Yeah, I know yesterday was a somber episode. This one, I like doing this stuff. Normally they're not this long, but I think it's because they had 3 kind of important people there that it went this far, and also this is a pretty big moment for the U.S. spending. This is technically just the supplementary bill, but you can, I mean, they talked about the NDAA bill quite a few times. So, yeah, again, thank you guys. We're pretty close to 1,000 subs on YouTube. I'm seeing like higher retention rate across the board. That's fantastic. I should have a better mic soon. That'll be fun. Might have a better PC soon. Who knows? But again, thank you guys. I will see you tomorrow.